And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Monastery, the open bar of the internet, the world's greatest shit show, and the place where we, the good brothers and sisters of this most holy of temples, seek enlightenment through the drunkest, craziest, and most batshit ways possible. I am your one and only gaming monk, better known as Mildra. It is Saturday the 13th. Fuck you, Jason. And fuck you, Crystal Lake counselors. And whoever designed the Friday the 13th game, your game was shit. We are back. We are back with the Gazette after and I am slowly getting used to the fact that wait, I can go outside without having to wear my jacket. Of course, that's not gonna stop me from from having my laugh at the people who are complaining about a little bit of cold. It's like, oh, you got down to 30. Let me play a small violin for you. I know I should
attacked here.
Yeah, I gave a little bit of tact when it came to people having to deal with burst pipes and the like, but but I have my limits. And with all the people who keep doing the whole, how the hell can you stand that cold? Well, it's very simple. I dress in layers. If it's still too cold, you need more layers.
Finally, somebody who gets it.
And yes, I was semi-quoting the engineer. How do you fix a problem? Use a gun. And if that don't work, use more gun. Oh yeah, and we got to prepare for the dark hour, so I hope you all have your evokers planned.
Oh dear.
But let's get straight into it with the Kickstarter spotlight, because we've got quite a few things to cover. Now, this first one, Beckoned, I will freely note the fact that, one, I did back this, and two, I had the developer of this on my show not too long ago. In fact, it was a few days ago, and he credited the fact that the interview that he did with me gave him ideas on the fact that he needs to better define the magic system that he's working with.
Nice.
So, when you see this, I want to make clear of one thing. This that you're seeing is a two-man job.
Damn.
Yeah, Zaid Studios is a brother and sister, not brother and sister, brother and brother team, who's working on this project, and they freely admit that they've got their fair share of old school FF influence. When I saw the way he had the battle system set up, I asked him if he had played any of the Saga games. He said he hadn't, but it's not the first time he got that comparison. He did admit that the approach that he's going with, his inspiration was Chrono Cross, which I can certainly see, given the fact that you have to do left, right, and three different angles of attack and defense. Because not only are you targeting angles with your own attacks, that's how you handle blocking as well. He did admit that he's planning a bit of a materia-like approach when it comes to skill and spell progression. Though the way he described it, it seems like he's having it where the shards that you get have a expiration date, so you're constantly having to shift them around. Although from what he told me, it sounds like he might be rethinking that approach. Because I think that's something that only really works if you are very generous with the crystals that you give out so that people have room to experiment and not get conservative with it. But like when it comes to when I say when it comes to a lot of the art, like I said, two-man job, and even the backgrounds are drawn the old-fashioned way.
That's insane.
And visually, I can see the I I've seen some people remark that it reminds them of Final Fantasy VI. I don't see it that way. I very much get a Chrono Cross vibe from their particular art style.
Yeah, like looking at this one photo here, that's definitely not something you'd see in 6. If anything, yeah, I don't maybe 9.
Honestly,
Like, I get more of a 9.
I was thinking 5.
5 works too. Yeah, a little bit of 5, a little bit of 9.
Um, Although one thing that he had remarked with me is that they uh they wanted it to be as accessible as possible, but trying to program the game to work on mouse and keyboard has been a pain in the ass. Which I understand their reasoning to do that, but let's be honest. When you think of what comes to mind when you think of RPG on a mouse and keyboard?
Double click menu, I would say.
Say again.
Wait, repeat the question. I blanked there for a minute.
What comes to mind when you think of RPG played on a mouse and keyboard?
A simple click menu, honestly.
Yeah, I'm thinking of stuff like Planescape or Baldur's Gate. And Doku says Monster Girl Quest. Fuck off.
Ah!
Don't make me get the anti-horny bat.
We'll have to ship his ass to horny jail.
But they they have been hit they certainly have a ways to go. And I get the feeling even if they don't manage to reach their goal of 68,000, they're gonna keep grinding at this because um they've been doing live streams of their development every few days. Also, I had to get Jelly at one of the devs because he has a Turtles in Time arcade cabinet.
Ah.
Lucky bastard.
Isn't Arcade One up making a Ninja Turtles Art One?
We'll get to that.
Patience, my friend. Patience.
So, next we have something from Studio Agate, who I have contacted them a few times about doing an interview. They've declined largely because self-consciousness over the language barrier, because they're from Paris. And while it wouldn't be the first time I've had a French guy on the show, French, not French Canadian. I will respect that decision. But Encyclopedia, which is another follow up to their own spin on 5th edition called Fate Forge. They were asking for 20,000. They are at 342.4 thousand with 19 days to go. Damn. And part of the reason I like Studio Agate even back in the days of Shadows of Esterin is, as you can see, they are very, very good when it comes to their visual presentation. Like this feels like an old school journal like approach instead of a manual. Especially with you know, you kind of have this scrapbook like feel with everything. and I like it.
Kind of like an old school version of the old Earthbound player's guide.
Hmm. And hey, a orc monk. Didn't think you'd see that combination, did you?
Mildred, I think we just found your new character.
They did want to step away from some of the traditional tropes, um, because in Encyclopedia orcs have I'd say the orcs that they're going with are more in line with the orcs in Warcraft than in D&D or Tolkien.
Kind of giving them more of a shamanic feel to them.
Yeah, the Irul orcs in their setting are pacifists, whereas hobgoblins have a culture of trading. Unfortunately, that possibly means that hobgoblins will mark the return of the bad joke goblin meme that's been in the Pathfinder forums for years.
Oh dear.
Like, let me see if I can find one of the worst examples.
Also, I saw some of the Zoku's responses for his earlier comments were, I'll have you know I've been playing Honey Bop 2, and that final boss is kicking my ass!
That hard, huh?
I gave up after 6 attempts. And bear in mind, it is 4 dates back to back to back with only 100 moves when, in a normal situation, that many dates would have been 120.
Randomized characters and baggage.
It's not fun. Those who have played the game understand exactly what the hell we're talking about. Let's just say they don't fuck around.
Were
Easily.
people complaining that the first Honey Pop was too easy?
Well, that's the thing. This up until this particular final battle, it actually is easier in this game.
So
It's a difficulty spike.
It's worse. We've got the Mario effect.
Yeah. Yeah, up until that point, I was having very little trouble. I mean, I had some couple of rough spots, but I had very little trouble getting to the end. It's just once I got there, it fucking kicked my ass.
Mm-hmm. But for an example of the bad joke goblin, if you roll a 20 on an intelligence check, is it called critical thinking? And if anybody's getting mad about how bad that joke is, that's the point. The whole thing started with somebody posting an image of a goblin and just making the most daddest of dad jokes.
Ah, my spirit animal.
I think they're...
Oh, now Doku's gonna be the one lashing out. Yeah, fuck your cage! Fuck your cage!
Let me see. There, or why do dragons love eating undead wizards? They're magically delicious. I once convinced a pirate captain to crash his ship into a huge dock. He crumbled under peer pressure. What stat is used to calculate bowel movement regularly? The dump stat. What do you get when you cross a bullet with a donkey? A burrow. and then the immediate response was, "It's okay if you don't understand. The joke is slightly underground."
Yeah.
So
we needed that.
You say what you want about those kind of jokes. um, truth in advertising.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think Toku's got a lot to say about that. He's like, screw the cage, negative zone for this. So like, yeah, fuck you.
Yep.
I am a dad. I have the right to enjoy dad jokes. Fuck you.
And Chase, I think we needed it after what happened earlier.
Yep.
Let's not get into that.
But we have an image of a traveling hobgoblin merchant. I just realized the art style that Cersei's reminding me of more and more with this. Maybe it's just me, but is anyone getting flashbacks of Larry Elmore's art for Dragonlance?
Yeah, I can kind of see it.
They've also made a joke of Encyclopedia is your new cookbook for your next game sessions because, yeah, apparently in order to establish more world building, they're putting in-universe food recipes.
Oh, Lord.
Including, I'm not entirely sure what that is, but I fear for what would happen if the recipe's in there and Lady K gets a hold of it. Like, it looks like a calzone with extra steps.
Knowing her, she'd find a way to make it absolutely fucking delicious.
Yeah, probably. Look, as long as I'm not having to deal with spicy, I'm fine.
Same.
Oh. And it looks like they have a nice little case for your resident alchemist. A few friends have been making the joke that the reason I don't get coal every year on Christmas is because Santa apparently thinks I'm an alchemist and that I might do something with it. Which isn't exactly helped by the fact that I have a friend who is something of a practicing alchemist, which is probably where the joke came from. See, and they're going with a modular system. It says, Encyclopedia makes use of a modular system that lets each game leader define the atmosphere they wish to create for their stories. Each of the symbols listed below includes related optional rules, adventure hooks, and setting elements that the leader can choose to make use of within a given campaign. Do you want to fit within the canons of heroic fantasy? Use the rules labeled action to make the adventurers all the more powerful and successful. This kind of highlights something that I've been bitching about on the last few RPG design streams. That D&D can't seem to figure out what style of fantasy it wants to be. At the very least, with this whole modular system approach, there's an attempt at trying to say, okay, if you want to go with different styles of fantasy, here's some things to use. Like we have the action icon for all the rules, magic items, and situations for the more epic end of things. Corruption for those who want to go with the dark end of things, and well, dark. And also spice, because he who controls the spice controls the campaign. See, and then we have.
So we have ones the size of which even God has never seen.
Well, given the fact that the map has a salt desert. Also, I wonder if we can rename that salt desert Tumblr. See, then reward summary. And then... Now, in the interest of full disclosure, I will note, yes, I did back it. Because, look, how could I not with what they're offering? I mean, it still is going to have some of 5e's issues, but there's still a lot here that can be worked with. Also we have a vampire spawn archetype, and the vampires don't fucking sparkle.
Thank you.
Yeah.
For the record, the main reason I'm making that joke is because of some of the rumors that have been going around regarding Pattinson on the set of Batman.
Oh dear.
Least of which being, he got busted banging Zoe Kravitz on the hood of the Batmobile. Keep in mind, it's just a rumor, but that's there's a sexual tension joke I could make out of that, but you're already thinking it.
Besides, He gets an opportunity that very few would ever get the chance. He's got to fucking take it. If the rumor is true, he fucking took it. I get props for that.
Yeah, the only it's just if you're gonna do that, make sure there's absolutely nobody on set.
Yeah.
I'm not I'm not annoyed that he did it. I'm annoyed that he got busted.
Pretty much.
Yep. So next we've got something from John Delarose, and I know some people don't like him, but I like him. He's always been cool with me. Um, Obviously he and I don't agree on certain things, but with Deus Vult, he's doing a Crusader fantasy, and I didn't make the joke around him, but given the fact that we have essentially a Crusader getting thrown into another world, he's an isekai protagonist.
Son of a bitch!
And now I hate him.
Yeah, the story is Sir Domingo, Spanish knight and holy crusader, is blessed with a vision on his return from his conquest of the Holy Land. The Holy Grail appears in the sky, leading him on an adventure to another realm where demons and monstrosities lay waste to all creation. He discovers a race of people called the Kityan, who seem more akin to Earth's cats than they do humanity. He alone can lead them to salvation and away from the tyrannical rule of the Demon King. He's cited 80s Conan the Barbarian, the Mighty Thor, and Prince Valiant as his visual inspirations. Especially since the color setup that he goes with in the pages you're seeing, that was a deliberate choice.
Yeah, it definitely gives that vibe of like the Sunday comics, like with Prince Valiant and stuff like that. You definitely get that vibe from it.
In fact, there was a more traditional color palette that they used early on, and he showed me a test example of that. And honestly, it didn't look terrible, but it looked like a 2001 comic.
Ugh.
Yeah.
And not bad, but it didn't have the kind of visual flair that it felt like it should have. It felt like an anachronism. Whereas with this, you've certainly got that vibe, and he also mentioned a bit of a nod to Metal Hurlant, or heavy metal. And what's funny is that the colorist and the writer in this project are both people I've had on the show. The colorist is Matt Krotz, who's responsible for the Kyrie comic. I've had him on the show in the past. He's a cool guy. We had also had a bit of a talk about John Carter, and there's definitely some John Carter vibes with this. Which yes, you can retroactively consider John Carter to be an isekai protagonist because you're literally going to another world in that case. It's just I always tell people if you want to know more about John Carter, stay the hell away from the movie, read the comics.
What movie?
Exactly. Next we have Chronicles of the Immortal Swordsman #1 from the same people who did The Adept, and they're now taking a new spin on this, and I have to credit the fact that being around Deathblade has kind of put me down a rabbit hole when it comes to wuxia once again. I thought I was done with this little rabbit hole when I wrapped up Jade Empire, but just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in. So, written by Peter Xiao, with art by Gabe Sapienza, colors by Irma Kiliva, and letters by Darren Bennett. This is a double-sized first issue that follows Phil Dew, a young man whose heroic reawakening into an ancient order of supernatural warriors coincides with a new civil war and a cataclysmic occurrence known as the Reckoning. Definitely sounds up my alley. And also, I may be alone in this, but I want that jacket.
Eh. Getting red instead of green trim, I'd be down.
Mm-hmm. But there's definitely the old school. I wouldn't say that this is a wuxia work. This is right on the line between wuxia and tianxia. The difference between them being one is martial hero, the other is immortal hero. And like I said, I like where this is going. And in a lot of ways it is doing the classic hero's journey approach. And we also have a fair few variants when it comes to covers, because you know how this works with a catch-up of the Adept as a add-on. Although this poster designed by Bernard Chang, I've always liked these kind of setups. You know, juxtaposition in posters. Let's see. And apparently, and of course, one of their add-ons is getting drawn in. I had to put the whole thing of "This is you." I just see that, and I keep thinking of the whole blue dot thing that Christian had talked about a few years ago. That's my one. But let's see. So Chronicles is at. They were asking for 10,000. They're at 17.1 thousand with 17 days to go. I did have a back and forth with Peter at one point about doing an interview, but the trail went cold. So, unfortunate, but it is what it is. See, then we have, hey, it's our old friend Brian Niemeyer, who's the second biggest mecha weeb that we have, and I can hear Matt Wheaton and Misanthropic in the distance.
Yeah, I hear him too.
But he is coming back with another follow-up on his Combat Frame Xseed series of novels. Which, the best way to describe Combat Frame Xseed, imagine Gundam meets Tom Clancy.
Oh Lord.
Although, when I look at the mech designs that he's had set up for his thing, there's definitely a lot of early generation mech design with it. I'd say a lot of BattleTech inspiration, and some Macross inspiration, but I do have to wonder why hasn't he done a visual guide so we can show a lot more of his mech design. Oh, never mind. He is doing something like that. The CF Tech guides. And Classified Intel is going to be a series of short stories. But let's see, but with SS we have more of a follow-up, and I do have to like, I can't help but like one of the reward tiers for 200 USD. Be killed in a book.
So I can literally pay to have my character get killed.
Yep. He says, "I'll write you or your choice of victim into Xseed SS. Your character will meet an unforgettable demise in the novel."
You might as well be creating a death note for that.
see. The plan he has is to dial the fun up to 11. I feel like I should drop him a line to see if he'd be open to coming back to the temple. And God damn it, Doku. He said, if the mech isn't piloted by cat girls, it doesn't pass the Elon test, and therefore I can't condone it.
God damn it, Doku.
I mean, he has a point.
Don't encourage him.
It only makes things worse. Well, worse than it already is.
With friends like mine, who needs enemies?
Right?
So
Jesus.
next we have Diesel, and I will note one. I was able to talk with the developer of this without tearing my quad. And two, he's going for a very simple approach. Diesel is you're effectively on a frontier that is on the literal edge of reality. It goes, welcome to Edge. This desert region is not only the end of the known world, but of reality itself. The dimensional barrier of this world intersects it instead of surrounding it, allowing people to step out of reality and into the frontier, or the area between dimensions. Along this border, a substance known as possibility forms, literally crystallized reality. Possibility can warp what's real and make incredible things possible, things like diesels. Originally created as instruments of war, diesels are humans that have been heavily modified and now run on diesel fuel. Every player character is a diesel living in Edge, but their story and abilities are up to you. So, obviously he's going with a classless setup. And the approach, he is using a D6 pool, though he did say thankfully it's not going to be Shadowrun levels of D6. You know, you're not going to need pounds of D6s, although just remember you never have enough dice. There's not a whole lot to say because the book is going to be about he's only planning 50 pages, stretch goals notwithstanding. And an interesting thing that he did is there is a kind of flesh and steel dichotomy, but it's not a case of humanity. It's more the fact that when you take damage, you can either take that damage into flesh, which is just going to be standard hit points, or you can take it into steel. The catch is obviously you run out of HP on the flesh end of things, you're dead. On the steel end of things, you run the risk of having your augments get broken. But the more steel that you have, the more augments you can take. So it's a nice little balancing act there. He did admit two of his big inspirations were Firefly and Mad Max.
Yeah, I can see it.
And I'm just pointing out this rule. If I ever run this, I am not wearing chaps. I'm not going to be dressing like Lord Humongous. Now, Immortan Joe, maybe I could get away with that. Maybe I'm not saying I would. I'm saying I'd have a little bit easier time getting away with that than I would Lord Humongous. And it's kind of funny that Mad Max ended up influencing so many wrestlers. But next, oh hey, it's the game that kept kicking my ass. Shadow Tactics is getting a board game adaptation, and it looks to be a hex-based board game. Now, the video game has been out for a while, and it is not a bad game, but it is hard, especially since it's going for, much like Desperados, it's going for a mix of stealth and RTS. And it's clear that they're trying to replicate some of the stealth aspects with these little cones. But I can and I can see how how it's going to work out. Um, although this is not necessarily a game I could see myself breaking out at cons because of the fact that it's doing this hex-based approach with the tiles. It's going to need a bit of setup. It's not exact. I wouldn't exactly say it's the best for for pickups. Besides, if there's any game I'd want to try and break out at cons, it's something like Embryo Machine. You know, the mech game that we talked about a while back. Which, yes, I did I did back it. Now, next we have the Book of the Graces, which they meant. Hey, they actually managed to get over their goal since the last I checked on it. Now,
Nice.
I did back, and I will be talking with the developer of it tomorrow. We just had to shift the time a little bit earlier, and update it a bit. So they were asking for £2,000. They are at 2.4 thousand now, with 32 days to go. Now, Book of Graces is a campaign setting that's loosely tied to their Arklands setting. And one of the things that they're going to be adding for this setting is aerial combat. Although it's aerial combat with things other than just dragons. Not that there's anything against dragons, but kind of overused.
Yeah, but I'll admit that, and I'm the dragon fan.
Mm-hmm. So we do have the usual Moor, and the Raptor mechanic. So players journey into the Celestial Realm, once a paradise, now a world of frostbound islands, mysterious ruins, and memories of terrible conflicts between the children of a long-dead god known as the Graces. A multitude of mortal peoples have settled here and built kingdoms in the sky, but powerful forces long to claim back the realm and restore Celestium to its former greatness. Players can choose from 4 new races. No, I'm not doing the whole we're retiling races as origins. No. So we have the Surians, who know everything there is to know, but remembering it at the right time is another thing entirely. How does that sound familiar? Atsuki. I'm pretty sure I screwed that up. Stag warriors that make charismatic leaders. Kairois. Trickster rabbit humanoids born of chaos. And Nomi. Diminutive makers, fixers, crafters, and smiths. Adorable at first sight, but grow into snarling beasts when they get angry. Why is it that way I look at that thing and I'm reminded of Gizmo?
Yeah, I can see it.
Mm-hmm. Let's see, then what you get. Let's see, within its glossy, colorful pages, we bring 3 ages of the world lore and introduce the story of the Keeper. Let's see, and then new mechanics, as we already mentioned, where you can ride hawks, owls, ravens, and swifts into battle. I'm probably going to ask him what a swift is. All new celestial backgrounds, all new locations, a full adventure called the Glassmaker's Dream, which goes from levels 3 to 10. And then we have stretch goals. The first one, if they manage to get to £4,000, is the Reliquary. If they get to 8,000, then they'll be throwing in the Book of the Disgraces, which would be a volume full of NPCs. See, and then the team involved. Some talks about their previous work, Arklands. Um, Doku, I don't trust, and I don't trust any of the rabbits. Did you not see? Did you not see the gag that I ended up starting during my Shadow Warrior playthrough of shooting every rabbit that I found? Because the only way, you never know if that one's the killer rabbit or not. But it's kind of hard for the killer rabbit to kill me if it's already dead. Let's see. We also have one particular video game that made a comeback after it had previously done a Kickstart that didn't exactly work, and they managed to get funded in a day. Tanuki Creative Studios putting out a project called Jitsu Squad. And I think what certainly helped in their case is having a demo. But they were asking for, okay, hang on. Why is it not showing? Okay, converted into 17.9 thousand is their goal. They're at 64.5 thousand with 11 days to go. Not too shabby.
Not at all.
Let me see if I can. So yeah, they are going for side scroll. I'd say they're going for side-scrolling beat 'em up. Obviously, just a lot crazier. If anything, I know some people are gonna make allusions to Turtles in Time. Turtles in Time wasn't this fast.
It wasn't.
Hell, with how insane it looks, I'd say it's a slightly sped up version of Castle Crashers.
Castle Crashers is actually where I was gonna go with that, or Metamorphic Force. And Kaneko to whoever remembers that. But they had but it has been a treat to watch them post updates on their animation on Twitter. And as you can see, they definitely are not holding back when it comes to being expressive. Also, when it comes to their little hey look, S from oh, it's an S Romero. I was gonna say if that was a J Romero, I was wondered, is that what John Romero looked like after he saw the reviews for Daikatana?
Oh!
And I love that one of their reward tiers at the higher levels is, look, Mom, I'm in the game. Basically, you can be a assist character. Let's see, and then they have stretch goals. So speedrun mode. I do hope to see this in one form or another at GDQ. It's probably going to be if we did, it'd probably be during the either early morning or late night.
Obviously.
Well, when it comes to GDQ, do they I know that staff gets cycled about, but is it a case of going 24 hours?
Yeah. They go 24/7 until 24 hours a day for 7 days.
Yeah. And of course, obviously, swapping people out like it's a hockey game.
Yeah.
See, in-game art gallery, a boss rush mode. Let's see what else they're planning. A surfing stage, a remix mode, interesting. Live orchestra medley, okay. A tower challenge. Now here's one that I do hope they get to. At 75,000 euro, they'll throw in New Game Plus. But they want to have the freedom and accessibility of Streets of Rage and Final Fight with the speed of Guilty Gear, MVC2, and Smash Brothers. I can see it. Oh. And then we have the cast. The Shinobi Hiro Yamagiwa. I know it's a semi-common name, but I always end up tilting my head whenever you name the protagonist Hiro. Let's see. Baby Ohara, a vengeful cyber ninja. Jeez, we're going full Sega with this shit. Jazz Admon, the magic kung fu master. I'll give you one guess as to which of the characters so far Lady K is probably gonna end up playing. Let's see, and Aros Helgason, the Dragon Slayer. Let's see, then the combat mechanics, infinite juggles, parrying encounters, using input commands like fighting games, a fury mode, assists. Apparently, one of the assists. Oh, it's Maximilian Dude. Of course he'd pop in on this. And Benny too.
Is there any doubt?
Ukulele is another assist. Which well, it'd be more fun doing this than playing the game, because I'm sorry, but that first ukulele game was a massive disappointment.
Yeah, they made the world a little too big.
Would it be fair to say that they fell into the same trap they did with Banjo-Tooie?
Little bit. I'd say even worse than that, because yeah, like cut the world in half, you probably would have had and used the rest of that budget to polish things up a bit. Probably would have had a much better game.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Then we have the stages, some of the boss fights. Much like how the players have a fury mode that they can unlock, the bosses have it as well. Then we have the looks like one of their rewards is a music box with their game's sheet music. Let's see. So then we have a lot more of the rewards that I know I'm not going to afford. And it looks like they plan on releasing this for Steam, Switch, PS4, and Xbone. And Doku says I name all my villains chosen one or hero. Bitch, please don't lie to me. You name all your villains Ray.
Ah!
So then we have Tales of Skiora, which they're asking for 2,500 Australian dollars, and they are currently at 2.7 thousand. Not too bad, especially with 10 days to go. And I can definitely there's an inch. The thing, it's clear that it's made on the writer's book. Based on that, though, wish there was a little bit more to see. Also, this is a interesting visual style that they're going with, it's like a papercraft RPG.
Kind of reminds me of Animal Crossing in a way with its design.
Although it's a lot more blocky than Animal Crossing is.
We'll say early Animal Crossing then.
Yeah. Well, beyond that, it does seem to have some vibes of well, the combat system looks RPG Maker as fuck.
Oh shit, yeah. Oh no, you kidding me? This thing was made in RPG Maker. I could tell.
Mm-hmm.
This was made in RPG Maker.
Oh yeah. Let's see. Then we have Elysium Above, which Do I hear two? And indie 3D tactical role-playing games.
Yeesh. I'm gonna go ahead and take a guess that the English is not this person's first language.
No, certainly doesn't seem that way. And looks like we have Wuxia meets cats, and a little bit of a light version of FF Tactics style play, which I'm perfectly fine with. And given the animation that we're seeing, yeah, not his first language. But it did. Oh, I think he may have bit off more than he could chew. He was asking for 20,000. He's only at 2.7 thousand with 8 days to go.
Yeesh.
He ain't making it.
No.
Shame. It does look interesting, but maybe should have put out a demo first.
This is a case of being too ambitious or the goal being too high.
Neither. It's a case of not showing your hand enough. Um. Then we have one that is doing significantly better because they're asking for oh, hang on, updating. They're asking for 50,000 and they're at 55.5 thousand with 6 days to go. A game called Lucid Soul, a villain protagonist high fantasy horror JRPG with turn-based combat and a retro-inspired style. I can certainly see the horror aesthetic. I do have to wonder if I need to break out the whip. Especially with that castle, good God. Yeah, we've got the horror part in this thing down pat, I think.
Oh, Lord. Oh, yeah.
With but okay. As if I didn't hate spiders enough. Okay, let me see if I can. Okay, then we have some actual game. I was looking to see if we could get some actual gameplay footage from the video at the top. And looks like not quite. So apparently his influences are the two Lunar games. Yes, I said two. Dragon Soul doesn't exist. Let's see. Final Fantasy, Chrono Trigger, and Silent Hill. One of these things is not like the other things. So apparently it was influenced by ideas on such as how playing Magus in Chrono Trigger would influence the world, the gameplay, and the visuals. What would playing as Kefka change for FF6? How would his madness translate into gameplay, allies, playable character, etc.? Wait, Kefka and allies? Those two don't go together.
Menace, are you speaking of, sir?
If you were Galleon in Lunar, would it feel different to experience the same story compared to Alex? I know I ranted on the whole "let villains be villains" thing a while back, but that was in response to the cringe that was the Cruella trailer because I knew that was gonna suck. But the idea of a story where you're playing as the villain, I've never been opposed to that. The only thing I've ever been opposed to is trying to take the villain is the hero of their own story too far, and try and make a villain sympathetic when they don't need to be.
Yeah. Some men just want to watch the world burn.
Mm-hmm. And hell, I loved I I loved the Overlord games. I can definitely see the Lunar influence more than the Final Fantasy influence with this kind of perspective here. But and there's definitely a fair bit of dark humor. So let me see. Let me see if I. Although I gotta say, I would pay money for an art book with what he's got here. So let's see. Then we have some of the cast. Inasi. That's Inasi with an I, not a Y, by the way. It says. And I do like how Inasi it has no regard for the fourth wall here. So it goes Lucrezia. In Trebizia, heterosexuality is normal, bisexuality is fun, and trisexuality is kinky to all but Lucrezia here. I honestly don't know how she came to be infested with a nest of infinitely birthing spiders. She claims it's a curse by the goddess Lorana, but I have my suspicions. I mean, you're not supposed to enjoy curses, yet she's positively orgasmic over hers. And oh, we've got Cthulhu as a pirate captain.
Oh God.
Makes too much sense. Let's see, and like I said, I really like the art style that we have here. And hey, you do get your dragon fix with the ancient jewel dragon.
Oh, nice.
But the type of horror that I'm seeing out of this is very gothic horror, which I'm perfectly fine with. Um, now we have a bit of thing when it comes to the battle system. Um, Combat takes place in two phases, player and enemy. During your turn, you can move as much as you'd like on each character. Even after you've moved and swapped characters, you can swap back and move again. Each action you take removes one soul point from your total. When you use your last one, the turn will end and the enemy turn will begin. So instead of individual characters having turns, it looks like you have a set of shared action points for the whole party and for the enemy party.
Hmm.
That's a interesting approach. And yeah, look at what I'm seeing out of this. More and more, I am reminded of Lunar more than anything else. Like the perspective, the sprite work. The only thing that's non-Lunar about this is the art style, which has much more in common with Ayami Kojima's work. But yeah, I can see why this ended up doing as well as it did. I might actually consider streaming it once the time comes. Let's see. Next, Lore of Althera, the Lost Druid, which is set in a science fantasy world of the same name, and is going to be acting as the first installment in an anthology of adventures. They already have a bit of an adventure overview, including the island city of Fano, and that's a nice looking lighthouse, I'd say. Which is right in the middle of a lake called Crystal Lake. God damn it, I was kidding about the Jason jokes. Although, I'm not... This is I may have to look a little bit deeper into this, but I'm not exactly seeing the science fantasy in this. They referred to it as a science fantasy setting, but I see gas lamp fantasy out of this. Not necessarily what I think. When I think of science fantasy, the kind of stuff that comes to mind is something like, say, Dune. Dune I'd qualify as a science fantasy. A bit of space opera, obviously, but still. Let's see, and apparently they're going to be using this as a springboard for the Alchemy RPG platform to support a more theater of the mind style of gameplay. I might have to take a look at that later, because when it comes to those sort of things, I'm always curious about how they're going to manage it in games that aren't going with the typical fare. And lastly, there is a small part of me that is very, very glad that Maddie is not seeing this.
Oh God.
The Terminator RPG. Now, first off, we dodged one bullet in the sense that it's being developed by Nightfall Games, who are using their own proprietary system. But I do think there is going to be some unfortunate element in the fact that, for whatever reason, they were only allowed to reference primarily the Dark Horse comics, and not so much the movies. Like they were able to reference the first movie, but not a whole lot else. Which I don't mind. And I know some people are going to be disappointed that Arnold's likeness isn't going to be in it, but to be honest, that's not going to come cheap, and I'd rather that money be spent on things that are actually going to matter. Not to say Arnold doesn't matter, but I think you get where I'm going with it.
Yep.
Let's see, but they're shooting for 192 pages. They're using the same system that's used for SLA Industries Second Edition. So I'd say that they know what they're doing. I do like that one of the pledge tiers is "Come with me if you want to live."
Nice.
See, then some of these stretch goals, including a 8-page mission called "The Burning Earth," a Terminator variant called Pinstripe, who looks way too much like a cyborg Kingpin. A new NPC called Dr. S. Connor, a man fascinated by the events of 1984 who has become an expert in the future robot phenomenon. See, new art for the HK Tank. A PDF mission called Suicide Run, inspired by the graphic novel of the same name. The vibe that I'm getting with this is that a lot more time is going to be spent in the future more than anything else. I might be wrong.
It makes some sense, really, because one, we've had several movies that are taking place in the future, and honestly, you can only do so much in the past. I mean, you could do some spots here and there where time travel is involved, but you wouldn't be able to really do a whole lot that when it comes to like action scenes.
There's also the fact that the two good Terminator games that I've played take place in the future, not in the past. Those being Future Shock, which was oddly enough made by Bethesda. Yes, I know, but this was pre Todd Howard Bethesda. In fact, he was just a lowly programmer at the time. And Terminator Resistance. Yes, I'm fully aware that a lot of Terminator Resistance is ripping things straight from Fallout 4, but I don't care. You guys know that when I saw that was being done by the same people who did the Rambo video game that was god awful, I feared for the worst. Then I played the game and I was like, this is decent. Like, it's not going to set the world on fire, but for a budget game, it's a lot better than it had any right to be. See, but next, just when I thought I was done with tabletop lawsuits, here comes another one, and it's in a case where there's no winners. Zach Smith is suing Gencon and Peter Adkison over defamation, interference with business expectancy, and violation of the Washington Consumer Protection Act and other charges. Now, the authenticity of the document hasn't been confirmed, but this was originally posted on Ten Cars Tavern, and let me see if I can zoom this in. Based on what I'm seeing, it's certainly aside from that weird text at the top, which I'm guessing is just an artifact. This seems to be written the way I'd expect a lawsuit to be written. Apparently this the whole thing with Zach started after his ex-wife made claims about allegations of sexual misconduct, which Smith responded by taking her to court. Now, but apparently, I guess Zach isn't done. Now, I want to make something clear. I hate both sides in this. I find Zach Smith to be an asshole who's nowhere near as smart as he thinks he is, and Gen Con has done several things over the years to piss me off. Least of which, the final straw was the whole thing of the quarter pounder incident. You know, when Matt Fantastic assaulted the quartering and the quartering was the one who got banned, even though he didn't start shit while Matt was still able to sell his stuff at the convention. Look, say what you will about either person, I certainly have, but there's something not right about banning the guy who didn't start anything.
Yeah, if you're gonna go after somebody, at least make sure your reasons are valid. Don't use something that they didn't start as excuse to be a dick.
Mm-hmm. But moving on from that, Solasta, Crown of the Magister, is introducing something that I think will certainly help its reputation in the long run, because the plot itself for Solasta is but they're introducing a Dungeon Maker add-on to their game. And much like with Shadowrun Returns, I think this is what's going to keep the game alive. As long as they do it properly, because let's face it, the thing that keeps a lot of wrestling games alive is the community features, and the same goes with Halo, whether it be the mod community for the original custom edition, or the amount of stuff that people have done with the Forge maps, including myself. Even if some of the insanely evil custom maps I made for Advance Wars back in the day. Because yes, I made it my mission to try and make the hardest, most batshit impossible maps possible. Why? Because it's me. So, what I'm interested in with this is the possibility, but I want to see what people actually end up making with it, a bit of advice, Celesta, don't pull a we own your customs like Blizzard did.
Yeah,
You do that,
don't pull that shit.
you do that, you're gonna kill it dead. Next, a bit. So, the Cepheus engine has been expanding out of Traveler into more fantastical ends of things. And the most recent example of this is Barbaric, which leads me to ask, what is best in life?
We need Maddie for that.
Yeah, it's only 57 pages, but they're aiming for it's a slimmed down version of the Cepheus engine that is going more for sword and sorcery instead of high fantasy like they did with Sword of Cepheus. And given a name like Barbaric, well, and the choice of sword art there, you can kind of guess what their inspirations were. But I don't mind this approach because the Cepheus engine, due to Traveler's density, has had a reputation as being very, very crunchy. It's the character creation that's crunchy. When it comes to the actual gameplay, it's not as crunchy as people think. We also have Monty Cook apparently working on something called The Darkest House, which seems to be his approach at doing a haunted house game. Although the house system that he's making is designed to be system agnostic. And I certainly am no stranger to a haunted house, although this is a case of good strategy. Let's see how it pays off. Especially since there's a lot of things that you can't write in if you're writing a system agnostic game. You have to write just enough detail to give people ideas, but not too much. Then we have the fact that the game that requires pounds and pounds of D6s is finally getting its magic rulebook. Only took you 5 years. What the hell? And seriously, for the last edition, it took a year to get out a book specifically for Magic. And given how Shadowrun is cyberpunk with Magic, I'd say that's rather important. In fact, Shadowrun 6th edition has been very conservative about expanding its tool set. I don't know, I feel like some people are way too afraid of the stereotype of way too many expansions, but there's ways around that. Of course, it doesn't help that certain pundits are going with the conspiracy theory that games are made incomplete so that they can sell fixes later on. You might be able to make that argument with certain bad video games. Lord knows we have. But with tabletop, that's not really applicable. Not unless you want to be extremely cynical.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense in the long run.
Never mind that some games, some companies have to put out expansions just so that they can keep themselves afloat. And I know that's how it is with Palladium. But there's other reasons for that. Now, this next one, I consider this was something that was talked about. And first off, drink for comic book, but I'd like to give a customary fuck the WotC and a once again a reminder why I have not done any I have never joined any organized adventure group in the past 20 years. apparently they for the longest time Adventurers League had a PHB +1 rule. The rule was you could use any character build combination in the player's handbook only and one expansion. Now it's going on that they're basing what sourcebooks players can use based on what kind of campaign they're playing in. All major rule books will be legal. I feel like this kind of thing is a consequence of them not thinking more than one step ahead, for one, and also the fact that you can not all fantasy is created equal, because otherwise you'd have an instance of trying to run high powered stuff in fucking Ravenloft, a very gothic horror kind of campaign.
Yeah.
But of course, this is still going to get abused because somebody's going to bring some third-party shit in there.
It's not a matter of if, only when.
Mm-hmm. So, but here's a rare thing on my case. I have an instance where Games Workshop has done something that I actually like. So,
It's a miracle.
Some of you may have heard of a series of short animations called Astartes, which was 5 very short animations that were done in a series that was all done by one guy. And when you see what it looks like, it's incredible that it was a one-man job. And of course, there's been other interesting fan animations like The Death of Hope. Well, Games Workshop decided to go, you know what? Let's make these legit, and are opening a subdivision called Warhammer Animations. And they specifically hired Sayama, the developer behind Astartes, as one of the people who's going to be working on it. Which means they're doing a follow-up to Astartes. And they're not the only ones. They're working with Lost Legion Studios on The Exodite, and Paxil Art on Primaris the Last Templar, and Codex Film on Iron Within. Which means they went about it the right way. They essentially went to fans to help do this, because it's a case of they could either C&D these fan projects or say, hey, why don't you just do it with why don't you, if you're gonna do it, why not do it with a budget? And what you're seeing in front of you is the first look at one of these projects, the Exodite. And keep in mind, all of these are done by pretty small teams. So I'd say they've got some interesting things going on, and this is the second time I've seen something like this. Because are any of you familiar with the announcement from not too long ago about Avatar Studios?
Nope.
That was something that kind of slipped under the radar at the last minute during the last Gazette, where apparently because other people keep fucking up regarding Avatar, it was announced that a publishing subdivision within Viacom was going to be set up by Mike and Brian. No doubt in reaction to the fact that live-action adaptation that supposedly is being developed by Netflix, I feel like that's dead in the water after they left. So it's a case of, well, if you want to get something done right, you got to do it yourself. So, speaking of people doing things right, John Harper has updated the license for Lasers and Feelings, his own one-shot Star Trek hack, so that anybody can do their own hacks of the game. The only thing that he asks is that Harper be credited as the creator of Lasers and Feelings. The whole thing of, yeah, you can you can do your own spin on it, but make sure that it's listed as based on Lasers and Feelings by John Harper. And and he's not asking for a penny for the whole thing. So you could feasibly do a hack of Lasers and Feelings, put it up on DriveThruRPG, and make money off it. Just as long as you credit him with the original creation.
That's what we call doing it right, ladies and gentlemen.
Mm-hmm. But then we get, okay. This was a last minute thing, and I have to thank Spike and a few others for pointing this out to me. But the official Evangelion account advises fans against drinking before the new film. The official Twitter account, UN Nerve, cautioned viewers against overindulging before and during 3.0 plus 1.0 Thrice Upon a Time, saying, Shin Eva will finally start tomorrow, but I have one thing to tell you. We recommend you do not drink drinks, personal impression. The screening time is long, so be sure to eat and drink sparingly. Everyone be in good shape tomorrow and don't miss a frame, according to Google Translate.
Do these guys realize what movie that that we're talking about here? I think drinking is the only way you survive the insanity that's about to come.
The article states that it seems to be more of concern that fans will miss vital scenes if they have to leave their seat to use the restroom, since screen time is 2 hours and 35 minutes.
Again, it's Evangelion. Even if this is a more cleaned up, less Hideaki Anno losing his goddamn mind version of the movie, it's still Hideaki Anno.
On one, I know I can see where you're coming from on that, but it seems that their mindset is you're going to be if you're going on time to this, you're going to be in that chair for 2 hours and 50 minutes. You know, because of previews and other theater shit. So I think that's the concern, that they don't want people running off to the bathroom during important scenes. Fair
point. I'm just cracking jokes. Besides, you don't drink to watch Ava. You get high to watch Ava because that's the way you can process half that shit.
Mm-hmm. Though I don't expect to see anybody doing lines in a Japanese cinema.
No, you're gonna see him smoking a couple of joints outside the theater.
Well, that's what I expect whenever Yuasa is doing something.
No, there's where there's where the lines are being sniffed.
And I know somebody's gonna say, but Azuken was pretty normal. Yeah, that's because that was being adapted off of someone else's stuff. When Yuasa's adapting somebody else's work, he's more normal. When he's doing his own thing, that's when we get out the drugs. Well, even when he is adapting someone else's stuff, I still have to wonder if he's on the drugs.
His art style definitely makes you question that.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of anime, so Discotech Media was hyping up a remaster of Project Echo, an absolute classic. The bad news is that remaster is canceled. Here's the good news: it's canceled because they managed to find the original masters.
Yeah.
The original 35mm film, which was thought to be lost, it wasn't lost. It was locked off because of a clerical error.
Hey, you know what? We can laugh, but this means that when they do re-release these DVDs, they are going to be in some of the best quality you could possibly get. That is incredible.
Yeah. This was announced during their Super Discotech Day online event. According to their Twitter, the film hadn't exactly been lost, but instead been inaccessible due to a clerical error. Thanks to Robert Woodhead, software engineer and anime fan, the film was rediscovered after solving the clerical error and properly archiving the film. And they provided a link to YouTube user Ashura, who uploaded a clip from the remaster using modern technology, so that people will be able to see it in 4K.
That's going to be nuts. Cheers to Discotech.
Mm-hmm. I'd say Discotech seems to be a modern. I'd say they're a modern reincarnation of Media Blasters, but they actually have a budget.
And have brain cells to actually pick the right animator release. Because, let's be fair, Central Park Media, who Media Blasters was taking a shot at, was pretty bad, but Media Blasters wasn't much better. If you need any proof of that, go check Bennett the Sage's videos. He pretty much spells it out for you.
I have, including the one Masamune Shiro project that wasn't a Masamune Shiro project. But speaking of weird-ass projects, so I talked about this a week ago with you guys, but Amazon Studios and one of the former John Wick writers are going to be doing a live-action Hellsing.
Oh, good luck with that.
Okay, first off, question. Does it really count as live-action when 80% of your movie is going to have to be CG?
Yeah.
And if this sounds like I ended up asking this question a few years ago with the live-action Lion King, that's because I fucking did.
At that point, we're talking Ship of Theseus here.
Yeah. Second,
No.
here's the real big question. Obviously, you can't get Crispin Freeman to do a live-action Alucard, so who the fuck do you get?
Yeah. You have to find someone who can give that same kind of voice to deliver probably one of the best lines in the entire series. What a beautiful night. It's especially beautiful if you're a bloodsucker.
And you
Good
can't-
luck replicating that.
And you can't replicate that shit.
No. Oh, Doku's pissed.
Yeah.
Hold the fuck up. What?
And look, as much as I respect the importance of a writer in action movies, let's be honest, nobody walked away from John Wick talking about how well written it was.
Yeah.
And this is according to Deadline. Derek Kolstad of John Wick is working with Amazon Studios to adapt the horror manga. They're looking to... apparently, originally, this was going to be a TV series, but they're doing feature film instead. I'm not entirely sure which would be a better idea.
Brace
Oh.
yourselves.
Boys, we got a Doku.
Oh,
So-
he actually showed up.
Hey, I was making some quail. It turned out very good. So, first things first, fucking drink.
I'd hit the button, but my soundboard's not playing nice with me right now.
So, question number one. Are we doing Hellsing or Hellsing Ultimate? Because that is very important.
I'm going to assume they'll be smart enough to vote to make it more on Hellsing Ultimate because nobody wants the villain from the Hellsing TV.
I'll take the
No.
I'll take the soundtrack from Hellsing TV.
Yeah,
but
take the
that's it.
soundtrack, but don't give us the storyline.
Yeah, so going based off the assumption we're going with Hellsing Ultimate, we're going to pretend that the TV series didn't exist, as all rational thinking people should do. Who the hell thought this was a good idea, let alone for a live-action adaptation, movie or TV series format? What?
Oh! I just had a thought about this. I guarantee you that the minute the story comes out and it is based on Hellsing Ultimate, the Woke Brigade's gonna have a field day.
Oh, it's going to be hilarious.
That's almost a given.
That the minute they see the villains and see what they are basically are, what they are from, how they're set up, and this gonna be a war.
It's Nazis!
Yep.
On one On one hand, there's a part of me that would love to see that. On the other hand, um, after the current state of the boys, I would not only the current state of the boys, but also that report that came out a few weeks ago regarding the pathetic state of Amazon Game Studios. I would rather not. And to be quite honest, you'll forgive me if I'm a little bit suspicious that this thing is even going to happen.
Yeah, live action anime adaptations are one of two things. Either A, never fucking happening, even have been announced and teased and talked about for years, they never fucking happen. Or B, when they do happen, they never live up to the hype.
When's
They
the last
never
time you
live
heard
up
it?
to-
When's the last?
Death-
Oh.
When it comes
Sorry.
to Death Note, I will note this. Even though they've got problems, the Japanese live action Death Note trilogy is decent.
Yeah, I'll give you that one.
I will argue that the Japanese, the original trilogy, had a better ending than even the main series.
And I am curious to the same thing that Rick McFarlane is curious. Who would they get to play the Major? I would love to see that casting choice because I don't know who to pick for that.
The big problem with a lot of this is, and this is the reason why I brought up The Boys. Season one of The Boys worked because it was very uncompromising about the kind of story that it wanted to do. But when season two rolled around, they started spinning plates and didn't have much of a direction. And then there was the controversy about Stormfront, which I didn't mind. The problem that I didn't mind what they wanted to do with Stormfront. The problem that I had was they put too much focus on that, and then tried to put focus on all the. It's like you have all these other plots that you haven't resolved yet, and now you want to add another character to the mix.
Yeah, the answer is yes there's no such thing as trying to do too much in a single story, is there? Don't answer that, but
we all knew the answer to that. We just didn't want to say it out loud.
Yeah.
But we all knew.
But
so the one thing I will say, let's assume that this does happen and they move forward with production and it's not absolute garbage. I am going to be very disappointed if there's not a special episode going back to the 1940s, 1930s where Alfred was a kid and Alucard was a girl, because that is going to be hilarious.
I don't think that they'd have the balls to reference the Dawn, which is what you're shooting at with that.
Besides, they're doing this as a movie now, not a TV series, and they're not going to have enough room for that. They're going to focus on just... Honestly, the thing that I fear the most that's going to happen with this movie is going to be the same thing that happened when Japan tried to make a live-action Full Metal Alchemist movie. It's going to be solely focused on getting to the big moments.
Oh, and that's the problem. If you're trying to do this as a movie, even cutting content, you're still going to end up with like a 2.5 hour, 3 hour long movie.
Yeah.
I get the feeling that the problem is even with if you were Hellsing Ultimate was technically 10 episodes long, but I say technically because each episode was a small movie in and of itself. Each episode was about an hour.
Yeah, they were like 45 to 55 minutes each. That's crunching it down to 10 episodes, and even that at times felt a little bit rushed. Like if you don't spend at least 1 hour on that last act, I don't know what you're thinking.
Yeah, the problem with trying to do a movie with this is that there is way too much meat on the bones.
And you could do it as you could do it as a trilogy and make it work. You're still cutting stuff, but I could see that. But just a single movie?
Yeah.
God help the writers.
And to be honest, I'm still skeptical about whether or not this thing is even going to happen, simply because I hear so many different live action adaptations or adaptations based on this or that IP, and nothing ever comes of it. Do you remember not too long ago when there was all that talk about Clint Barton getting his own series on Disney Plus and nothing's come of that, or how say when's the last time any of us heard about the live action Akira?
Oh yeah.
Good
That's
All
point.
right. So let me speak to Amazon Studios and the scriptwriter and make it clear how we should do this. If you're gonna do this, make it a trilogy. And the way I would do it is the first movie focuses on the first like big arc of it. You know, you can have 3 acts here. You've got introducing Saris and Alucard in the first part.
Mm-hmm.
Second act, you can have the raid, where the 2 vampires try to raid the Hellsing organization.
The Valentine brothers.
The Valentine brothers. Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen the series. And then while you're doing that, setting up for the third act, which of course will be Alexander Anderson.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would make a perfect first act. The other because that way you have and you can tease the major at the end. Have the tease of the major as kind of like an after credits or an end of the movie, setting things up. That way you have a nice standalone movie, everything's set up, and you've got the big moments everyone wants. But if that first movie does well enough, then you've got the next 2 movies to focus on the major and that storyline.
And that's why I think as a movie, you can at least work in the Dawn a little bit, just to break up the pacing and kind of give people some breathers between Van Winkle and the attack on the aircraft carrier and Dandy Man in Brazil. And you can still add that kind of that context as to the past of Walter and Alucard without completely distracting from the main story arc. And then obviously we have to end with the invasion of Britain and then open movie 3 with the Battle of Britain.
Mm-hmm.
But again, do you think they could really get away with it without being incredibly CGI heavy?
Yeah, that's the big problem is that they're going to with a lot of what's in the film. Even Hellsing Ultimate had to get fairly CGI heavy with a lot of Hirano's detailed art style.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying they couldn't do it, but man, you guys better have like a Game of Thrones style budget when it comes to the CGI that you're going to put into that, because otherwise, ugh.
I feel like a big reason why Amazon even greenlit this is because with the boys' cultural footprint starting to erode, Amazon is throwing darts at everything they can to try and find something that'll be a strong enough pull to get people to subscribe to Prime. They're kind of in the same position that Warner Brothers was in post Harry Potter, where when the Harry Potter movies were coming out regularly, they had a reliable stream that they could always fall back on. But when they started to see the end point of that, they started to panic. And
yeah,
seeing the same kind of thing with Amazon Studios currently, because they've certainly got some good series as far as originals in their library, but they don't have the draw.
Yeah, because that's something I didn't consider. If you're talking doing Hellsing, you are making this for a very niche audience. Like,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I know the horror genre is popular. I know anime becomes more and more popular by the year. But even amongst the horror and anime community, Hellsing is still a very stylized
I have to
story.
wonder if Amazon Studios is also considering this because of how popular the Netflix Castlevania got.
This is clearly their response to that, and this is the same problem. Like Amazon Studios is to Netflix with this, as DC was to Marvel. They saw the popularity of what their opposition was doing, and are trying to get in on that action, not realizing that lightning never strikes the same place. Lightning never strikes twice in the same place.
Mm-hmm.
Netflix won that game. You will not be able to replicate that.
Well, the thing is, it's not that this couldn't be successful, but you're talking about you're going to have to cast very, very specific types of people for very unique and stylized roles. Your writers are going to need to know the story in and out and be able to translate that. You're going to have a pretty good CGI budget, and then let's not even get into the nightmare that's going to be trying to market this to the normie audience, because you're going to need normie money to make this profitable.
Yeah.
I, I'll tip my hat to. I applaud the ambition, but God help you.
Yep. Speaking of Netflix, we do have a couple things that they're working on that were brought up. One is, and this is gonna be showing in Japan in April, but the Netflix Shaman King anime is gonna be coming around, and we got some footage that has English subs for once.
That's a rarity.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
Not gonna lie, I'm very curious about this show, and I know absolutely nothing about it, but it looked good.
I remember seeing little bits of the original Shaman King, the one that 4Kids, unfortunately, well, one of their lesser butcher jobs, but still pretty bad.
mm-hmm.
But it was an interesting thing. But looking at this trailer now, holy crap, they are not holding back on this one, and I'm expecting some good things out of this. It's gonna have a lot of the shonen action tropes because this was at the peak of the shonen anime boom, where stuff like Bleach, Naruto, One Piece, Toriko, and all that was coming out. So you're going to see a lot of those tropes, but I get the feeling they're going to try to tweak it a little bit to make it a little more downplayed and actually just focus on a good story, which it already had one to begin with. It's just, again, if you only ever saw the 4Kids version, you didn't know that. You just got another 4Kids butcher job.
I mean, I have no problem with tropes as long as they make sense for the larger story at hand. But if it's just tropes for the sake of tropes and we're not using it for comedic purposes, then
Now, this one probably won't have that. I mean, again, I think it's going to be more of the former, using it to further the story. Because I remember, from what little I saw, the story was good to begin with. So I don't think you got much to worry about there.
I will freely admit that I ended up reading the manga several months before the anime came out. And when it comes to the animation style that we have, the only thing that I ask is that they stick things a little bit closer to the manga instead of the turn that they did with the anime, which they'll certainly have the opportunity to, because as I think I've made clear over the years, I am not a fan of adapting manga that are ongoing. I've never been a fan of that because you're eventually going to hit that wall. And when you do, most of the time you end up sucking. Not everybody is going to be '06 Full Metal Alchemist.
Yeah, that was an outlier. Honestly, that's why I think the current formula that most studios are doing now with seasonal anime has actually been a huge improvement. It allows them to pace themselves, and it allows time for the manga to get further ahead so that by the time the next season comes out, they're going to be able to continue adapting straight forward and not have to worry about catching up to the manga anytime soon.
Yeah.
That's why Hiroak has done so well.
But
let's be honest.
The big reason that I bring up this kind of thing is in regard to how in the manga is so far removed from how he was in the anime that they're almost two separate characters.
Well, and also, let's be honest, as in terms of getting ahead of your source material, Game of Thrones should be a lesson to everybody that's attempting to even consider trying to do something like that. And if you do, please, 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 for the love of God, work directly with the creative team that's working on the manga, and don't just wing it and do it by yourself.
God, no.
Don't make that mistake, please.
Yeah.
We've seen it too many times. We don't need any more.
Hell, Gintama made a fucking joke about it.
I forgot about. I need to go back and rewatch Gintama. I love that show. It's been a long time since I've watched it.
Yes, you do, so that you can understand the glory that is strawberry milk.
I mean, come on. Its lead character is voiced by my boy, Tomokazu Zagita. You can't go wrong.
I do remember somebody asking me asking me the question about whether or not Gintama would ever get dubbed, and I was like, no.
Actually, there are like a couple seasons worth of content where it did get dubbed.
You know what? Since we were on this topic, I just want to say really quick. Since we were on this topic because of the whole Hellsing thing, I would actually like to see them try to do a live-action TV series for Gintama. I think that would be hilarious. It would be hilarious either because it'd be really, really good or god-awfully terrible.
If it was
But
done
I'd
in
still
Japan,
like to watch it.
If it was done with with an all Japanese team, I would be on board with that.
Guys, Japan already did it.
Oh,
Wait, what? Okay, this is news to me. Never mind.
Came out back in 2017.
Well then, Simpsons did it then.
Check the council.
Oh, hold on. Oh wow, you're okay. Yeah, they did. Never mind. I stand corrected.
You're talking to the anime guy. You think I don't study this shit?
yep.
I'm surprised I didn't hear about it. Well then, I learned something new today.
So a bit of minor pandering for you, Doku. Season 2 of Rising of the Shield Hero will be airing this October.
Oh, thank God, because I hate it when they announce stuff but they don't give us an estimated release date. So I'm like, cool, this could happen in like 3 years.
Oh, dude, I'm going to take this opportunity to mention that, yeah, that's not the only show coming out. I brought this up on my podcast, The Anime Mavericks. This year is going to be the year of sequel seasons because, like, we mentioned Shaman King, we've got Shield Hero, we also have Dragon Maid Season 2, Zombieland Saga Revenge, How Not to Summon a Demon Lord Omega, Welcome to Demon School Arumakun Season 2, SSSS Dyna Xenon, and the final season of Fruits Basket.
Oh wait, I didn't hear they were doing another Aruma-kun show. I liked that show. I don't care what anyone says. That show is hilarious.
I think that's coming out. Like a lot of those shows, I don't know if Aruma-kun is one of them, but a lot of them coming out next month.
Great! I'm gonna be busy.
I feel bad for you guys' sleep schedules.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time keeping up enough as it is. And I will admit, this season has kind of spoiled me a little bit because between Jobless Reincarnation and Jujutsu Kaisen and Promised Neverland, I was like, I feel like I'm going to be disappointed.
I feel like I chose the wrong time of year to go on my retro binge.
Yeah, you did. Although, to be honest, but Jujutsu Kaisen and Jobless Reincarnation are the only two I would strongly recommend as you cannot pass. Like, no excuse. Yeah. You cannot pass those two.
Once they're done, once they're fully done, I'm probably gonna have to binge watch some of those shows. I think I might be putting those on the watch party lineup soon.
When you do, let me know what you think of them because I've gone as far as to say Jobless Reincarnation is the closest thing I've seen to what I consider to be a modern classic. Ooh. It's that good.
Yep.
I think we might. I think we had to put them on AMP first to see how it is before we put them on the watch party shades.
Well, not always, but we'll see.
Yep. So next, we ended up getting a story that I may have to take a little bit into, called 86. The premise is as described as nations are at war. It's okay, say the politicians, as no one is dying in this war. Only drones do the fighting. All civilians have to do is obey the military, work hard, keep their heads down, and all will be well. Except that's a lie. And if we're doing that kind of war story, which is this is going to be due out in April. I'm hoping hoping we get this subbed. This is apparently based on a light novel that Yen Press has the translation for.
Considering that most of the big licensors are basically trying to scoop up whatever they can, not knowing when the next big hit's going to drop, I'm pretty sure we'll eventually get it. I mean, hell, again, name a whole bunch of shows that you would have never thought to get licensed have, and so anything can happen.
If redo of a healer can happen, yeah, you're right. anything can happen.
Yep. But I don't know why, but the vibe I get from this is most certainly, I don't know. There's a small part of me that gets that is reminded of the Starship Troopers novel, especially when I saw that whole "Days Till I End My Service."
A little bit of Starship Troopers, a little bit of Gundam Iron-Blooded Orphans, I think would probably be a good one.
And I know that there was the roasting from certain folks, easy, about how Iron-Blooded Orphans had too much talking and not enough Gundams, but I actually liked Iron-Blooded Orphans.
I think it's because we're the kind of people who prefer G Gundam over most of the UC timeline, so that's just how we are.
Well, I'm going to agree with Mildra, because Iron Blood and Orphans reminded me a lot of, what was the name? Shades, you would know this one. It was a CGI Gundam where it was all set in the original Zeon versus the Federation, but it was all from the perspective of just your standard troop on the ground.
8th MS Team?
No, it wasn't 8th MS Team. 8th MS Team is still one of my favorites. This one was all CGI, very bad CGI, by the way. But the storylines were really good. They were all single episode, self-contained stories. It was only like three episodes. It's really obscure. I don't even ask me how I ended up running across it. It was completely by accident. But I like those more when you take like over-the-top bombastic war stories and you frame them in a more like, human boots on the ground type of approach to things. I have an appreciation for that as long as the story and the characters are developed well. It doesn't have to be a long format story where you're following someone for 10 episodes. Just let me know who this person is, what they're about, and give me a motivation, and then tell me a good story start to finish. I like those types of things.
What, like when you mention the only other ones that I'm thinking of, besides, since you mentioned it's not Unicorn, 0080, though I don't remember that being very CG heavy. And since you mentioned
this is
3
probably
episodes,
later on. I'm hold on. You know what?
Thunderbolt.
Thunderbolt's Thunderbolt. I don't think Thunderbolt's been animated yet.
It has.
Yeah, Thunderbolt's been animated.
Okay, I stand corrected.
I'm gonna look it up because this is gonna drive me crazy now.
Yeah, I'm already doing the same thing. I'm trying to see if there's anything that I can. Reproducing G? No. Is it?
I don't think so.
No, that's 26 episodes. You said it was only like 3.
Yeah, because when it comes to a very short Gundam series that was still taking place during Universal Century, that was using CG.
I don't think it's Stardust Crusader. No, that can't be it.
Could it be?
No, it wasn't Stardust.
MS Igloo? Because that's the one I'm coming across.
Yeah, I think it is.
Like, if it's only 3 episodes, it's an OVA, so I'm looking through all the OVAs.
It might be. I honestly can't remember. It was one I had recommended to somebody actually watch because they were ex-military, so it's storyline that they would appreciate. Because it's very boots on the ground. Like the first one is like a squad commander who's about ready to get released, and they say, "Okay, yeah, you have one last mission. By the way, it's fighting Zaku's." Oh, great. The second one was a tank commander, and the last one was, I think, a pilot or something. But none of them are Gundam pilots. None of them are mobile suit pilots. They're all just average, run-of-the-mill enlisted soldiers. It's a very unique look at the Gundam universe and what mobile suit warfare would look like. And despite the really bad CGI, the storytelling was very, very good.
Mm-hmm.
If I find it, I'll let you guys know what it is.
All right. Next we have a little bit of chaos known as Sabikui Bisco, which is apparently set in Japan after a rusting wind ruined everything. And Bisco Abakoshi is a man from the Mushroom Guardian tribe. And they're describing the vibe as Nausicaa meets Cowboy Bebop. I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to go that far.
Actually, based on the synopsis I'm seeing, and I'm getting shades of like Fist of the North Star type of deal.
just without the exploding shirts.
Yep. Though, of course, the obligatory thing has to be said. Roses are red, violets are blue. Omae wo moshinderu.
Nani?
Not.
Although to be, I'm gonna have to double check on this because looking at this particular animation style, are we sure Trigger wasn't involved?
Also, see, now there's this giant enemy crab. I saw that.
Yeah. But I'm looking at this and I'm going, I may have to give some time on this because I am always a sucker for ridiculously high concept ends when it comes to animation.
I'm gonna do some searching on this. This is done. Okay, I've never heard of this studio. Studio Oz.
Never heard of them.
I haven't heard of them either. What have they done?
I'm actually looking at now. Let's see, according to actually, they've done quite a bit. Though I don't think they've done that many full productions.
They've been a helper
Looks like they've
studio.
mostly done. Looks like most of the stuff is like finishing animation, scanning paints. Yeah, like there's not much they've actually just full on did themselves.
Although I gotta say, this particular promotional art, I would blow that up and hang that up on my wall. Is that's so apparently the this started out as a light novel which sold really well. A manga version ran from 2019 to 2020, and now it's getting animated, with the protagonist looking for a rust-eating mushroom, a growth that can purify all rust, as he needs it to save his teacher. While searching, he encounters Miro Nakoyagi, a doctor, whose sister is also dying, which forces them to go on this little journey together. I suppose one other thing that I'm reminded of, even if it's tangentially, Trigun.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
It's just that Sabikui Bisco probably is not going to have the same kind of personality that Vash had.
No, this guy's a little more upfront in your face, from what I can tell.
Mm. Well, the fact that we have the titular Lagan headbutt. But then this was something I found kind of amusing while I do have the game version on PC, I haven't had enough time to dive into it. But High Dive is stepping into the anime streaming smorgasbord with a dubbed and uncensored version of the Kandagawa Jet Girls anime. Which, remember Paper Mario, not Paper Mario, but Mario Kart Double Dash? It's kind of the vibe that they're going, just using jet skis.
We're thinking jet moto.
Mm-hmm. well, you've got one.
Uh, oh, sorry, real quick.
Oh God.
I was just gonna let you guys know it is Mobile Suit Gundam MS Igloo 2 Gravity of the Battlefront.
Ah, okay.
Oh,
All
okay.
right. But yeah,
What were you gonna say, Shay?
I just looked a look. Yeah, go ahead and explain the series, and then you'll probably point out what what I've just noticed.
let's see. It is. You're probably going to point out that this is done by the same guy responsible for the Senran Kagura games.
Yeah, that and the studio is the same studio behind shows like High School DxD and a show we mentioned earlier, Redo of a Healer.
Um,
I still can't believe that show got an anime.
TMS. It can only be Studio TMS.
Studio T and K, actually.
I keep mixing it. I keep mixing it up.
Also, Monk, I hate to call you out, but you missed one.
ah, shit.
Wah, wah.
This is now 2 stories past the one you missed.
I'll drink for that. It's not often this happens. I'm gonna actually say that's 2 drinks.
Yep. I see what I missed. Let me fix that right now. So yeah, here's the other Netflix thing that was brought up, and I knew this was going to happen. I just needed official footage. So it looks like I chose a good time to do that whole thing of marathoning Fairy Tail since Hero's other major project is getting animated. That being Eden Zero. Since he decided that now that he's worked all the fantasy stuff out of his system, he's going SF.
Oh, I heard about this. I don't know how I feel about it.
I'm going to give it its due. Especially since a few people that I'm familiar with have been enjoying it. One of them being Switchpoint, who I certainly get along fine with Switchpoint. Especially since we both have terrible taste in memes. And Switchpoint has been the king of searching through Sailor Moon to find meme images.
Okay, looking at this trailer, oh, they're not even being subtle about who originally made this series, because a little blue cat and a girl who dresses up very much like Lucy, yeah, not even subtle.
I mean, hey, sometimes you just gotta recycle certain assets.
That's
I guess.
actually a common thing with Masashima's work, because one of the familiars in Fairy Tail was ripped straight from another anime.
Yeah, let's not forget that this sort of thing he was also guilty of doing during that Monster Hunter manga that he did.
Well, let's not kid ourselves. Anime is an unapologetically notorious medium for taking other assets and repurposing and recycling them, even if it's not from the same creator. They do this all the time, so I'm not gonna let that turn me off to it, but it does give me some degree of skepticism going in.
If it weren't for the fact that I've heard high praise about Eden Zero from
Wait, hold on. I just saw something at the end there.
What?
Remember what I said about a character from Fairy Tail being in this being taken from another anime?
Yeah. Oh God.
That same character's in this show.
Oh.
Plu! He's at the end of the trailer.
Oh.
1 minute 52 seconds.
Oh, come on.
You know, the reason I know some people are going to cry foul about that kind of thing, but Brandon Sanderson is notorious for doing doing this sort of crossover stuff with his own work, and he's even less subtle about it.
Yeah, but it's just like, yeah, Plu. We can now officially say Plu is the official mascot of Hiro Mashima, because that's the 3rd time he's popped up. first, we already mentioned Fairy Tail, but he was also a major part of Rave Master.
Mm-hmm.
You mean kind of like that creature that was always in those Clamps animes?
And
yeah, something
Aaron,
like that.
I know you're probably one-handed with your cynicism at this moment, but calling this cut and paste is not applicable.
Not really.
Especially,
You know what?
especially when you shouldn't be throwing stones in that glass house of yours.
Also, I make up some slack for doing this joke about the anime industry. Subtlety, fuck that.
And I just realized something since you guys were talking about
Mm-hmm.
Plu. Plu is fucking QB.
No, I don't want to. I don't want to kill. Why would I want to kill Plu?
What the hell
Plu
is
is
wrong with
Plu is cute QB. Okay, Plu is the anti QB. How about that? Either way, they're still doing some dimensional hopping shit that I don't trust. Don't trust the cute anime things. That
And
never ends well.
anyway, apparently, Ilya Kuvashov is going to be doing illustration work on the ED for The World Ends with You anime.
Can you give me a glass of milk, please?
And we already have a couple images that Ilya did for this. And I gotta say, good work. This was
I'm.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm still very much looking forward to the World Ends with You anime because it seems like they have people on there who know what the hell they're doing.
Yeah, and considering this is a very cult classic, like you got to appease those fans, and yet still be able to reach out to the bigger audience. I mean, the games themselves were very unique, very different, and very radical in design, and the storytelling was really solid. So I could see why this got adapted into an anime. And by all accounts, it looks like it's going to be faithful to that story. So I'm looking forward to seeing how they're going to adapt it.
Yep. Speaking of things getting adapted, the other thing that was announced as getting a release date is Yasuke. Apparently, Mappa is handling an anime adaptation of the story of the African samurai Yasuke.
Dude, Mappa has been really busy lately.
Mappa has been fucking killing it.
Yep. And now I do want to make clear on something. Yasuke did exist. He was an African who came at the service of an Italian missionary and would later end up serving Oda Nobunaga. Though further details on him are sparse, but in certain parts of Japan there is a bit of a folk hero status with Yasuke.
Correct me if I'm wrong, and I could be very wrong about this, but wasn't that loosely the inspiration for Afro Samurai as well? Emphasis on loosely.
I have not been able to confirm that.
I've heard a lot of people speculate about it. I don't know if there's any truth to it or not, which is why I ask.
So this, to me, is where I think I need to bring up something, because one of the things that the group of us have complained about a lot when it comes to media is forcefully interjecting the woke ideas of having races in anime and stuff. Representation. Thank you. I was forced representation. We've complained about that a lot, and a lot of that complaints are very much justified. I'm not gonna even question that. But the reason why I think we're all kind of not doing that here is that this, again, like you said, is a legit thing. This is what we want.
Yeah.
We're all down with bringing up legit representation. The problem we've always had is when these studios and these woke bastards try to force it. That's when we're like, okay, fuck off. You don't need that shit.
Yeah.
But when you do it naturally, you're gonna get some good shit. And that's what we want to see.
I should also note that I recently saw a video by Appabend who railed on the whole representation thing after an article regarding that Kaya Disney film where somebody was like, Disney finally made me feel seen, and I'm like, if you need a Disney movie to make you feel seen, then you have much bigger problems. And he said something that I've felt for a long time, that a lot of people who are making the representation argument, which is always so cut and paste, are narcissists. And I will use myself as a bit of a counterexample with this kind of thing. I have mentioned that I have a bit of a soft spot for Jingle All the Way when it comes to holiday movies. In part because of the fact that so much of that movie and so much of, say, the first two Mighty Ducks movies, even the third one to an extent, did a lot of their filming in the Twin Cities. But it's not a case of, hey, it made me feel seen. It's not a case of me looking for validation. It's more of, oh, I know where that is. Especially when I look back at one of them, and one of the scenes that they're filming in is the famous Mickey's Diner.
Oh, this is what I'll say as in regards to the whole representation argument. I don't mind representation as long as it makes sense and it doesn't break the immersion. Like using Cannon Busters as an example, yeah, desert planet. I would expect most people to be of a darker skin tone because desert planet. And if you see someone who isn't, I would equally expect them to be kind of viewed as a bit of an oddity. The same way that a planet that's never seen a droid before in the Star Wars universe would probably look at the droid and go, what the fuck is this? The same way if you go to a high fantasy setting and it's a big bustling city and suddenly there's a frickin' elf dressed in leaves, probably gonna catch some people's attention. As long as it makes sense within the context of the story, I'm all for it. And honestly, you can use that as a really good narrative tool. It's that force thing, like Shades was saying, where it's just in the story because we need representation, but it makes no sense. Then it's like, can at least do something with it. Like, don't be lazy.
Yeah.
Like, don't just.
This is just me clarifying this because I know a lot of people out there tend to complain when anyone ever tries to fight back against representation. It's like, no, we're not against representation. We're against forced representation. Know the difference. Don't be an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And I was just going to say real quick, I like it when I do see different things as far as representation goes, because again, there's a lot you can do with it as a narrative tool. I would like to see how a elf that's never been outside the forest has to cope with living in an urban human city. You could tell a really good story just around that single idea. But again, do something with it. Don't just put token person A or B into the story because we need representation. Like, that's boring, it's lazy, it's tokenism, and nobody likes it.
Mm-hmm. Now,
that's my mini rant.
As far as this project, I'll certainly keep an eye out on April 29th. But it does the art style does feel like they're trying to channel some elements of Afro Samurai into this, and at the very least, for one, Mappa, I hope you're not overstretching yourself, and two, at the very least, it'll be better than certain other things you've been saddled with recently. AOT.
Or let's not jump down that rabbit hole.
But let's on to better things. So, Eximius Sees the Frontline, a game that I have given high praise for the last few years, is finally exiting early access. After a bit of drama where they had to take their game off of Steam because of a licensing dispute. But Sees the Frontline, the best way to describe it is a hybrid of RTS and FPS. And the fact that in a single round you're going to be doing both. You've got commanders who are going to be giving orders, and you've got people who are going to be boots on the ground.
I actually like that concept a lot. I wish more games tried to take that approach, but I know nothing about this project. But I'm gonna If you don't mind, when you have a free moment, could you drop into the council so I could do my own due diligence?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I can do that. I'll drop you the Steam page.
Awesome, thank you.
But if I and of course if I ever get the chance, I'd love to have somebody from Ammo Box Studios come visit the temple to talk about their little project, especially since what I enjoy about something like this is the fact that we have much more open map design, because I've made it clear, I've bitched to no end about how much I hate the fact that a lot of FPSs are way too restrictive with their map design. The worst examples are the ones that reduce your movement to 3 lanes. And I grew up on the arena style shooter, so I prefer big open maps with multiple angles to take a spot. So you don't have a situation where you're just sitting back. You know the the camper problem that Call of Duty has.
I was just gonna say, Mildra, if we don't restrict your movement into a kill box, then how do you expect the campers to ever get their kills? That's exclusion, my friend.
This is what I call the MOBA effect, because you know that whole 3-lane thing was built because MOBA players just made that a thing. Thank you, League of Legends.
To be honest, I'm not going to blame it entirely on MOBAs, but I am going to say that it didn't help. I'd say if anything, it's a case of certain games being afraid of being afraid of their own mechanics, and two, the fact that in the case of Call of Duty, when they made large maps for Ghosts got savaged for how big the maps were. So they're like, well, we got to shrink them down. Except the maps
They overcorrected.
The maps in Ghosts were not bad, but for a game with a high TTK like COD has always had, they're a bad fit, because it's like putting Battlefield maps in a game that is not meant for that kind of playstyle. Is the thing that I'm getting at. When making maps, just like with anything else, you've got to have it reflect the sort of playstyle you're focusing on. Otherwise, you end up with problems.
That's the catch-22 of having kind of once you find a niche, trying to break out of it and do something different, usually the audience is very, very critical of you, and that makes a lot of studios very nervous. It's not a bad thing to do. It's just
balance is key.
Yeah.
Oh,
no, yep, correct. And I'll drink for that one, because you are 100% correct. And also, you gotta know who you're marketing to. And I'm actually gonna point to us really quick. As players, don't buy something expecting a certain thing when it's clearly been marketed as not this thing. That's not an excuse for throwing shade.
Yeah.
Memes, maybe.
I hate that mentality of like, oh, I bought it because I wanted this and you didn't give it to me. No, if they didn't tell you were getting that, then that's your fault.
Yeah, false advertising is one thing. That's worthy of criticism. But no, we told you this was going to be a big open world. Like, you don't buy Star Citizen expecting Squadron 42, and I hate to use that example, but it's a good example. Mm-hmm. You know exactly what you're buying. You know exactly what you're getting. And as someone who's, for disclosure, has dropped $45 plus I bought a T-shirt for Star Citizen, I didn't buy it expecting I'm going to get an episodic mission by mission based space flight simulator. I bought it knowing it's a game that's probably going to be constantly in development, kind of like how I view WoW.
Speaking of things exiting early access, Deedlit and Wonder Labyrinth is following suit. It's going to be leaving early access on the 27th. I have played it and its developer's predecessor, Toho Luna Nights. It's really funny that the best way for me to get into a Toho game is for it to not play like a Toho game. Funny how that works out.
Okay, Mildred, I have to ask. You said Deedlit, and I only know one character by the name of Deedlit. Is this Lodos Deedlit?
Yes.
Huh.
We talked about this game months ago.
I thought, but I knew it rang a bell. I just had to clarify because, again, I'm surprised that it took this long. I thought it was kind of dead in the water.
It's been in early access for the last few months. What the hell are you talking about?
Busy looking at finance and laughing at GME stock, but you can imagine I haven't had a lot of time for gaming, so hearing about it again now is a slight surprise.
The last time I talked about it, you had remarked that you would have preferred Best Girl be playable.
Well, of course, but anybody who doesn't think Pyritest should always be the playable character is wrong, and you're entitled to have your opinion, even if it's wrong.
Meldra, just give it up. You're not...
Yeah. Anyways, so a couple weeks ago we talked about how Saga Frontier is getting a remaster, although it's more of a expanded remaster than the typical affair, and that includes a new character known as Fuse. Well, they've put out some more details on him, namely that for one, he's a post game story. His story is unlocked after completing any of the other 7 characters' stories, and also is having new music from Ito Kenji. This story features if scenarios, i.e., what if Fuse had intervened in the other protagonist episodes?
Or what if Pyritest was a playable character?
We're moving on to a different game there, Doku. Moving on.
It was a joke, and I'll go ahead and drink for my own stupidity.
The Saga series as a whole is one that I've been a fan of, but one that I completely understand why some people have a hard time getting into, because if you're approaching Saga the same way you would Final Fantasy or Dragon Quest, not to abuse the meme, but you are going to have a bad time. It is a very different experience compared to them. It's always the Saga series has always marched to a different drum, even in its Game Boy days. Even if it wasn't called Saga at the time. But the fact that they're even putting in this chapter with new music and all is certainly impressive. It's not something that you expect from a remaster. You usually just expect the exact same game as it was all those years ago.
Just cleaned up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Hell, remember back in the day, people were singing Resident Evil remake praises for actually putting new stuff in the game rather than just updating the graphics.
Yep. Now next, I guess there's been a development shift regarding the Gothic remake, which is a full-on remake in every sense of the word, simply because, well, the original Gothic, you can't use that same sort of graphical setup nowadays. It doesn't exactly help that Gothic, like a lot of German RPGs, is jank as fuck. Then again, you kind of expect jank when you're dealing with a no-name studio in 2001.
Ooh, that was one hell of an era, to say the least.
But THQ Nordic is handling it, and it's incorporating Alkema Interactive as a subsidiary studio for the project. And apparently they're still looking for open positions. So this remake, I don't expect to see a release date until next year at the earliest. Like,
yeah, if they're still looking for positions,
there was that playable teaser that they put out last year, but even then, this is a long way from being done, especially given how open Gothic was. Because the original Gothic is still a pretty good game, even with some of its janky elements. But it is. You know how certain games got overshadowed by bigger releases? Gothic got overshadowed by the Elder Scrolls, because I think, 2001. So it had come just before Morrowind did. And obviously you compare one with the other, and you know who's coming out of that fight. Even if there's
Yeah,
but there's
and
also
Morrowind had a lot of hype behind it too.
there's also the fact that 2001 was a very packed year when it came to games, and Gothic was a no-name studio in the middle of Germany. It's managed to establish a cult following, and Gothic 2 is the most copied game of all time, but still. Then we have this little announcement. Hidden Path Entertainment is planning on making an open-world D&D game. Um,
Hmm.
but it's an open-world game that apparently they are planning on being more action-oriented, unlike, say, Baldur's Gate 3. The reason why this is making me raise my eyebrow is Hidden Path Entertainment is mainly known for the tower defense series Defense Grid, as well as being a co-developer on CS:GO.
Oh.
And now they want to
Um.
tackle an open world action adaptation of Dungeons and Dragons.
That's a red flag.
Crimson. You want to know the last time somebody tried to do an action-oriented take on D&D? Forgotten Realms Demon's Stone in 2004.
Well, I'll applaud the ambition. Here's a question: have they gone on a hiring spree, or are there a bunch of new open positions?
According to their tweet, they are hiring for graphics programmer, lead graphics programmer, senior technical artist, and writer.
I mean, that's a good sign. It's not a bad sign, but that doesn't mean it's gonna. It doesn't mean the follow through is gonna stick.
No, the only way I could possibly see this working is if they hire some of the ex-Snowblind people, if you can find any of them. Because Dark Alliance and Champions of Norath were both good games. But with this, I wouldn't be like before I opened up the call. I was watching Racevic's video on Alpha Protocol, and how Obsidian really bit off more than they could have chewed with that, because they were handling styles of play that they had no experience in, and using an engine that nobody had done that kind of thing yet with. Like for instance, one of the options, of course, was stealth, but at the time nobody had done a stealth action game using Unreal Engine 3.
I guess my concern with this one, if you already have a core team that you've worked with and you know what their skill set is, and you just need some people to take some of the pressure off of them, hence the kind of open hiring tweet, that's not inherently a bad thing. The other end of that spectrum is you don't have enough people, nor do you have a core team, and you're actively trying to scramble to get people together to make the project successful because, like you said, you bit off more than you could chew. This could go one of two ways. It could either be really good, or it'll be absolute garbage.
I'm not holding my hopes too high on this one.
Yeah. I'll be surprised if I even see this at Gamescom next year.
Yeah, you know what? Better to keep expectations low, because if it turns out being really good, then hey, guess what? We didn't have any expectations to begin with. So,
now some of you may now the story kind of came and went, but some of you are probably aware of how Kotaku and a bunch of other people were trying to cancel Troy Levitt for his association with Hogwarts Legacy, the game developed by Avalanche and WB.
Yep.
But Troy recently put out a video called "To My Friends at Avalanche," which was which was a cut up version of a Zoom call that he did with the studio, where because initially the story was believed that he had stepped down because of the controversy. In his own words, he's saying that that's not exactly the case. His stepping down was something that was just a long time coming. Because
So basically, what you're saying is we read too much into it.
yeah, it's it. He had acknowledged that the timing of the outlets discussing his YouTube channel and branding him as hateful may have given the wrong impression why he left. But the articles had nothing to do with it. He showed his resignation letter explaining a difficult situation with his family has deteriorated, become chronic, his words, and likely to be high maintenance in the foreseeable future. This began in January of last year, and Levitt had told Avalanche HR in April that he planned to retire in August. This would allow him to move to Nevada to help his family. As discussions continued, Avalanche proposed that he could work remotely even after he had moved. He had taken time off from mid-August to mid-October 2020. At the start of February, things took a sharp turn, and Levitt told Avalanche's management team of the situation, and was considering retirement again. He highlights how all of this occurred before the articles about his alleged beliefs were published, and he's praised WB Games for aiding him in his transitions and dealing with his family, stating once again that WB Games had reviewed his videos in 2018 when he joined Avalanche and had no objections. Everything fit within their social media policy, and they did not endorse it. That they did not object to the videos that he made while working in Avalanche. That WB Games did not pressure him into retirement after the articles were published, not in the least. Now, discussing the articles, Levitt found it curious that they were focused purely on a civil expression of his ideas and opinions he had expressed 5 years ago, that authors and outlets had deemed wrong. There was no instigating incident either, nor accusations of misconduct, criminal behavior, HR scandal, or even mean tweets. Levitt states that the articles sure feel like cancel culture, but he also condemns the notion of it being consequences for his actions, as that would have required accurate reporting.
I'm going to applaud him on 2 points. First, for still not letting this get in the way of his professionalism and decision that, like, hey, look, no, I had stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to leave it alone, and I'm not going to drag all of my colleagues and the studio itself through the mud because, oh no, Kotaku and games journalists are writing mean things about me. Which brings me to my second point that I'm going to applaud him for. Not using those articles in the, as he would describe it, cancel culture, to try to boost yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And just leaving it alone and going, yeah, no, I'm just not going to mess with it. I'm gonna just focus on my life, and I'm not going to make a mountain out of a molehill. We need more of that, especially in pop culture.
Yep.
So good to him.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope the situation in this family turns out well, if he ever ends up hearing this.
He then explained the difference between responsible press and propaganda press, and he stated that the articles against him felt like they prioritized a narrative over the facts, lie.exe not found, used vague labels to smear his name, and used no supportive evidence for their claims. It was one-sided, all propaganda techniques. And he listed all the articles, all of the people who did it. He also criticized how the articles portrayed him as the lead developer, while his LinkedIn profile states he was only a lead designer until March 2019. Then he was a senior producer until he left. There's an editor's note that Niche Gamer is guilty of this and have now edited their articles to make note of this. So, Levitt,
I'm also happy that he pointed out, hey, you might want to correct these things, but I won't directly call you out, but I'm calling you out.
Yeah. He proposes that the cause of this confusion, aside from non-existent fact-checking, was a singular tweet by a freelance journalist. This is seemingly where the originator of all the attention Levitt came from. The articles also attempted to brand Levitt as alt-right, anti-feminist, misogynist, racist, a bigot, and more.
Jeez.
Just
Oh.
I've one of these days I'm gonna put up a meme that says that is basically Syndrome going, when everyone is alt-right, no one is.
Yeah, that's a frickin' vegetable stew. And let's see, wait, you said alt-right, racist, misogynist, anti-feminist. That's at least 4 drinks right there.
Mm-hmm.
So
They basically just tried to fire he said some things they didn't like, so they fired the shotgun at him.
Yeah, hoping that something would stick, and except he had already gotten plenty of this when he did his video 5 years ago called "A Game Developer's Response to Anita," and
oh boy.
Well, that answers everything right there.
Well, I think the sole reason that this is happening is you still have so many propagandists who have a massive hate boner for J.K. Rowling's beliefs about trans people.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up, Mildred, because let's be honest.
So
The whole reason they went after this dude was because we don't like J.K. Rowling, but she has, as the term goes, fuck you money. So they went after the next best thing they could find.
yeah, and let's see he had proposed that his videos were not even watched by the authors, as some of his work would disprove those labels, such as "The Joy of Wrong," "Games Lead the Way," "Shapiro's Excluded Middle," and so on. And also discussed equity. He's talked about this in his videos in the past, about the vast difference between equity feminism and misandrist feminism. And he also states he recommended other YouTube channels that he felt were doing a much better job than, say, FF was. He states his appreciation for those who defended him on YouTube, both large and small, and also praises the small channels, as their work is out of passion and closer to what a general sentiment might be. While he would expect outlets to publish retractions, corrections, and apologies for their work, he imagines propaganda press will instead double down, blame Levitt or others, misdirect, and malign those who supported him. And in regard to Rowling's comments, he said there are points he agrees and disagrees with, and her explanations were all thorough and calm. As such, she deserved conversation, not cancellation. He explains that he is now comfortably retired and does not need to work again. While family comes first, he may enter indie development several years into the future. He may also return to videos, and is continuing work on the next book in his epic fantasy series, Hymn of Shadows. He jokingly challenges his former colleagues at Avalanche Press to release Hogwarts Legacy before his next book, and praises the studio as the best to work on the game.
All right, I like this guy. I've never watched a single video of his, but just watching or listening to how he's handled the situation, yeah, he doesn't seem like a bad dude.
I've known Troy Levitt for a few years. When the whole Gamergate thing kicked off, that's when he and I exchanged words, and we came close to having him on the show. I came close to having him on the show, but scheduling conflicts just made it not work out. When it comes, I may forward a line to him again regarding his novel series, since I already have a fair amount of experience bringing on people who work on fantasy novels. But he has always been nothing but a class act with me.
So this isn't a new thing for him. It sounds like he has experience going through this type of thing before in the past. Then again, what do you expect if you make a video criticizing Saint Anita?
Mm-hmm.
Listen, I gotta get going. I gotta get that.
All right, Kira, stay frosty, man.
Later, Kier.
Yep.
Have a good one, dude.
But next, oh shit, oh boy, it's time we talk about EA Gate.
Whole preemptive drink. Just I know there will be a point in the future that
You know what? I'm gonna temporarily switch over and risk my audio being a little messed up. Because we got to set this up properly.
Here we go.
All right.
At this point in time, this will be a bit of a throwback. I don't remember the
Hang on,
soundboard.
let me set this up. So EA,
Hold on. Let me set mine up. Yep. Hold on. Yeah. You set that up. I'll set mine up.
Just let me know when you're ready.
I got my button ready.
All right. So EA, you're currently under investigation by multiple countries' governments over the loot box thing. You're dealing with several class action lawsuits, and everybody in the gaming world wants your head on a silver fucking platter over your insistence on putting in Ultimate Team. Things can't get any worse for you, right?
Ladies and gentlemen, this is why we call them EA Egregious Assholes.
I expect nothing less from them.
Oh boy.
That is the drink.
I will give credit to Young Ye for first bringing this story to my attention. You know how they've claimed that it's not gambling because you can't cash out, even though you can. Well, apparently, some of their employees got busted running a cash out ring.
Oh,
fucking Ultimate Team.
Wow.
And ladies and gentlemen, drink.
And we are talking payments of thousands of dollars and thousands of euros. So, a company employee was selling icon cards in packages priced 750 to 1,000 euros, and 3 Prime Icon Moments cards were offered for 1,700 euros. And the whole thing blew the fuck up thanks to Foot Arcade.
See, I have quite a few friends who reside across the pond, and from my understanding of how laws work there, that's not just a cash-out scheme. That's an illegal gambling ring, as what us Americans would call it. And
we not only have, we've got, and the thing is, there's no weaseling out of this because we've got DMs, we've got receipts, and we've got video.
Oh, buddy, this is gonna be a one hell of a ride.
Yeah. I'm looking at EA like Dennis Leary. How you guys doing? This is gonna suck for you.
Now, and EA, guys, this is not a hold my beer moment. Why? Why? Oh goodness.
This is a hold my keg moment.
Yeah, seriously.
Now, EA Sports FIFA put out the company message on the matter, and that i.e. the usual spiel, which is why I'm not even going to read the thing. It's what you'd expect from a corporate response.
Automated lawyer speak.
Yeah, the thing is, I am not mad at the person who had been doing this for looks like the better part of a year. I'm mad that the lack of oversight caused this. Like the guy doing this, he's not the problem. And if you fire him, it's just going to continue on with somebody else. Because I guarantee he probably was not the only person doing this. He was just the one guy who got caught.
I'd be shocked if it was only one person, to be honest.
And I guarantee you, every gambling commission in the various countries that signed that document from a year ago is looking at this with interest, especially since given the fact that an employee literally did cash out. That could potentially mean that EA lied under oath.
Oh, I didn't even consider that. It gets better. Oh, EA, what the hell are you
'Cause
guys doing, man?
Because remember, I watched that hearing in full, and they specifically said that under their own systems you could not cash out. That it was a closed system. That was their argument for why it didn't constitute gambling.
Oh, that's a straight up lie then, because you clearly facilitated a system that allowed someone to indeed cash out on a system predicated on gambling. Oh boy. That- oh. I'm not even going to try to explain that. I'm just going to drink and laugh.
Yep.
That is game, set, and match, motherfuckers.
Speaking of motherfuckers, fuck off, Zelnick. Fuck off with this whole gamers are ready for a $70 price tag.
Oh, we hit this shit
Oh.
again.
Yeah,
Are
he's trying this again, and never mind the fact that when they tried this with NBA 2K21, they got hounded, and they're trying to say that gamers are ready for a $70 price tag. The only way I'd even consider that is if you're dealing with a game that is so chock full of content that it's needed. Like if I could pay $70 for Crusader Kings 2 with all of its DLC, that I would at least consider, because that's a fuckload of DLC.
That's. Mildred, unless you want to say something, I have a very small rant about this.
Oh boy.
First things first. Fwatwa Zelnick. Rosetta Stone Haitian Creole, motherfucker.
Aaron would be proud.
Now,
I'll drink to that.
Apparently they're claiming that it's going to be on a title-by-title basis. But I'll simply say that this is a really good way to encourage piracy.
You're not wrong. This is my problem with this. Gamers are ready for a $70 price tag. In an environment where I can buy games that should arguably cheaper because I don't have to worry about somebody producing a physical frickin' disc, which, yeah, surprising enough, significant amount in terms of the production process, I will pay what it's worth. I'm not ready for a $70 price tag, the same way I won't pay you $60 for something that's garbage, the same way I won't pay you $30 for something that's garbage. You trying to sit there and go, gamers are ready to pay this much. No, we're not. And half the crap that you idiots have been producing over the past several years isn't even worth me paying $20. The only thing it's worth is being able to talk about it on a show like here, the Monastery Live, because it just shows how incredibly stupid and incompetent some of you fools are. No, I'm not ready for a $70 price tag. I'm ready for you to produce a product that's worth $70 fucking dollars. But you seem to not figure that point out. So as far as this article and this assertion goes, make something good. Give me a reason to pay you $70, because if you think you're just gonna squeeze it out of me like money grows on fucking trees, I hate to break it to you, dude. I'd rather pay fucking $5 for a garbage ass Candy Crush mobile game than I would fucking rather spend $70 on whatever freaking crap that you're about to produce is. Because the last time I spent $70 on something, it was Fallout 76. Go fuck yourself.
Let's also remember let's keep something else in mind. The game that is currently blowing the fuck up out of the internet and streamers everywhere right now is Valheim. Valheim is $20 on Steam. I paid about $20 for 30XX. I guarantee you, most studios are not going to be taking this whole $70 thing. Not just for the simple fact that the reward that they get out of it is not going to be worth it, because anybody who unironically does it is going to deal with this level of backlash. And for a lot of companies, that's not something that they can afford. Now, when it comes, personally, I seriously doubt anything is going to come of this, and if it does, well, I hope you like losing money, Take-Two. Not that they're gonna put out anything that's gonna be worth that amount of money, because I don't expect to see Grand Theft Auto 6 for another decade.
Dude, let's be honest. The last time I tried to do a freaking gimmick like this, that was actually something they could chalk the price up for. Not only did it backfire, you tried to follow it up with a gimmick of a rum bottle that doesn't even pour out the rum without running down the side of the bottle, and it was coated in plastic. Yeah, we're ready for $70. Oh, get bent. We're ready for a good product.
Although,
Again, good product? Yes. $70 because $70? No. Stop.
speaking of games, speaking of the whole piracy debate, let's talk a little bit about the Nacon situation.
Oh, here we go. I heard about this.
Yeah, I've never seen a game get publicly disowned this hard since Postal 3. And that's saying something because of how much of a shit show Postal 3 is, to the point that Running with Scissors, even though you can buy it off of their site, well, actually you could up until a point, they completely disowned it.
Wow, I'm surprised I didn't hear about this.
Sid Alpha just did a whole couple videos on this whole thing.
Oh, fuck. The cats are going at it. I'll be right back.
But so Frogware is claiming that Nacon stole, hacked, and altered the sinking city and uploaded it to Steam without their permission. Now, a couple weeks ago, I had talked about how the sinking city had been pulled from retailers due to a legal dispute between Frogware Games and Nacon, who was their publisher. Frogware accused Nacon of withholding royalties, presenting incomplete sales data, and misrepresenting the IP as belonging to Nacon, along with other allegations. At one point, Nacon tried to use the COOF as an excuse for why they weren't doing their job.
Drink.
And when this was taken up in the courts in France, they sided with Frogwares. But the big reason why they got so pissed off is Sinking City had a limited exclusivity on the Xbox, on the Epic Game Store. Nacon had grabbed a pirated version of it, cracked it, messed with it to take off Frogware Games' name on it, and tried to upload it to Steam, which would have been a violation of the contract that they had signed on with Epic.
Yeah.
Oh.
Wow.
I don't even know what to say to that one. That's
And the
yeah,
thing
that's
is,
something.
There's a full video showing how it got cracked and pirated that Frogwares had put up. And they have gone public multiple times saying, the game that's out there, if you're buying the Steam version, even if you think it's a bargain, don't. That's not the Sinking City that we wanted to release, and we had no involvement or affiliation with it.
Oh wow!
Nacon's response, which came up on the 6th, is equally pathetic. They claimed that a clause in their contract that allowed it to be adapted by a third party after they refused to put the game on Steam. And the reason Frogwares refused to put it on Steam is that would be a contract violation, and Epic would be within their rights to sue them.
Oh no! Oh wow! I don't know what to say. Talk about a clusterfuck. Damn.
Yeah. And they claimed back in October that Frogwares had terminated its contract in a manifestly unlawful manner when the game was removed from sale. While the court had stated that the contract must be continued until it had been decided if Nacon breached or not. Now, Frogware's reply was that they would like to revise the terms of the contract to Nacon stated that Frogwares would like to revise the term of the contract to their sole advantage. It's easy to play the victim, but all we seek is Frogwares respect its commitments both in the contract and as demanded by the courts. That is fucking rich.
After you already, according to Frogware, breached the contract. I would actually like to see this go to court just to see who the court side with.
It did go a part of this did go to court in France, and Frogwares won. Right now, the irony is they're the ones who are trying to play victim on this. When Frogwares has full-on video showing how the Nacon version is a crack. You've got a lot more than just a few pretty words that you need to address.
Yeah.
You're basically fucked. You're gonna be lucky if they don't freaking sue you out of into bankruptcy.
Even if Nacon does come out this with a W, how many studios are how many game development studios are going to want to work with them?
Oh
Yeah.
no, your reputation at this point in time has been shredded regardless of what the courts decide. That is a cell phone, I believe the term would be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, you win the battle, but you're going to lose the war because any other prospective studio in France or any other part of Europe would look at you and go, how do we know you're not going to just fuck us the way you fucked them?
Oh, it'd be even worse if they actually do win in court, because then they'll say the courts are going to side with the people that are going to give us the big shiny plastic sex toy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yikes. I'll just go ahead and drink for that one. There's no winner in this situation.
Nope.
Next we have a So this ended up dropping out of nowhere. A co-op third-person shooter called Aliens Fireteam, dealing with synthetics. Go ahead.
Before you go on, I'm gonna go ahead and head out. I'm probably not gonna be able to contribute much here, so I'll see you later.
All right, stay frosty. I'll catch you later, Shades.
Yep, later.
Later, Shades. Have a good night, dude.
Yep. But in regard to this, first off, the idea of doing this kind of game, it seems like this should have been done a few years ago. You know, when everybody was taking cues from everybody was taking cues from Left 4 Dead. Although the fact that this is third person, not first person, already means it's not quite that. And there's already a precedent with how well Vermintide did. But when it comes to Aliens games, let's be honest. First off, they've got a lot of work to do because they still have to wipe the taste of
Colonial Marines
off of people's mouths.
Yeah. I had a lot of high hopes for that game too. Joke's on me.
Yes, it is. At least we've got the option of the smart gun, and we do have the. I'm not going to say that there are decent Alien games, even if one of them has been a nightmare for me for decades, and that being the Alien Resurrection game on the PS1.
I really want to forget that thing exists.
You know, a lot of reviewers complained that game was hard, and normally I'd just say that's a case of game journals being game journals. Not the case.
Oh no, that game was extremely difficult. I actually had an easier time playing Ninja Gaiden on a Master Ninja mode than I did with that game. That game was just mean. It punished the hell out of you.
It's not a badly Alien Resurrection was not a badly designed game. It was just it's crossing the line between being hard and being evil.
That's the thing. It was punitive. It's like half the time it's like I didn't even do anything wrong and I'm still getting punished. Like what the hell, man? Cut me some slack.
I will say that Fireteam certainly has the look down, and I've always been a sucker for the smart gun. I'm hoping that this thing isn't just a glorified turret, but it seemed it the it seems that this is being made solely for its co-op, and if nothing else, I'll enjoy eventually seeing Russian Badger make a video on the game where he and his buddies just shout at each other for the whole game because they are a bunch of self-admitted idiots.
Hey, silver linings.
Mm-hmm. Um, but but especially since this is going class based, this very much feels like it's trying to take its cues from the Vermintide crew. What I'm curious about seeing is whether or not this is going for survival horror or going for action.
Yeah, that's a concern I have in regards to any game coming out of the Alien franchise. Is the Alien franchise does not lend itself well to action. I don't care what anyone says on this. Alien has always been more of a survival horror type franchise. If you want to do action, do Predator. It don't do Alien. It doesn't work well.
Or just do Aliens versus Predator. I liked one of them.
Even that's a better option. But just Aliens alone, in my opinion, you shouldn't have a class-based system. It shouldn't be a multiplayer arena style thing. Like, no, just drop me on a spaceship, and there's a xenomorph on board. Get off said spaceship. There you go.
At the very least, there may be some wiggle room since the whole time you're going to be playing as synthetics.
Even that would work. But again, you can't have a bunch of people running around at the same time. You can't have like large action-based sequences. It has to be something that's more slow, calculated, and the reason you can't do that is because you have to emphasize the fact that the xenomorph is a stealth hunter predator. Mm-hmm. It's not in your face. It doesn't have cloaking mechanisms. No, it's hiding in the frickin' vents, and you're gonna have to wonder, oh, where the hell is it? Echo. Let me find the motion tracker because mine's broken. Yeah, that's how you make a good Alien game. You have to add that degree of suspense. You can't do an action type game with the Alien franchise. It doesn't work. And a lot of studios don't seem to realize that because it shouldn't be a difficult game to make. But they managed to keep screwing it up. Not really sure how.
Well, go read the Alien TRPG that came out last year.
I was not aware of its existence. Is it going to be one of those?
I did a review of that thing months ago.
I've been focusing on stocks and shit, man. Like, come on.
All
you
right,
gotta
fine.
cut me a little bit of slack here.
A little.
Only a little. That's all I ask.
Now, something else that got announced, thanks to .emu, that might have a little bit of optimism is TMNT Shredder's Revenge, which instead of trying something stupid like adapting the Rise cartoon, this is going old school.
If nothing else, that should at least be refreshing.
Mm-hmm. Including the fact that it's pretty damn clear that that Turtles in Time is their template. Just using the 80s cartoon and bringing in some more of the insanity. At the very
I'm actually okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
I have no problems with this.
Yeah. They haven't put out a release date, and all we have is the teaser and some of the screenshots. Screenshots look straight out of Turtles in Time, just with higher resolution pixels, including the return of throwing people straight at the screen. So I have some degree of hope, especially since .emu did a really good job bringing back Streets of Rage.
Hmm. I would like to know more about it, but from just from what you're telling me now, it's
Look, I
better than
don't think
half the
it's going to
stuff I
be
see
as
coming
bad as
out.
Out of the Shadows. Nothing's going to be that bad.
Oh, yeah, I don't disagree.
Um, Next, because we're in a renaissance of the boomer shooter, we have another one in the form of Dread Templar, but which is coming to us published by 1C Entertainment and developed by T19 Games. And
Don't know anything about it, so
the look of what I'm seeing has of as a um it's very clear it's aiming for the same general aesthetic that we had with Dusk, which for the record is really really fucking good. Um and Dusk was kind of like it was this hybrid of sorts between Quake and Blood. And I get the same vibe with this thing.
hmm.
Just with a little bit of a little bit more Blood, a little bit less Quake, and a tiny bit of Shadow Warrior. Although fortunately I won't have to do the whole thing of chuck grenades around corners because hit scan hell. But
Yeah.
I always like shooters where I have some degree of mobility. And I can definitely see that with this game, especially with all the dashing about. And the fact that you're going to have to learn to dodge. But apparently they're also doing they're doing 10 classes of weapons in the thing. So we have katanas, we've got revolvers, we've got shotguns, and infernal firearms. It's going to be heading into early access this fall.
Okay, this is something I'm going to have to keep my eye on because I'm intrigued by the infernal firearms.
Mm-hmm.
If they give me a meltagun, yeah, I'm easy. I'm an easy sell.
Mm-hmm.
Give me a meltagun.
Um, Apparently we're also getting a full release date for Crash 4, which is going to be March 26th. Although for whatever reason they decided that it's going to be a timed exclusive on battle.net.
That's an interesting decision.
Apparently they are, but apparently they are going to be putting it on other consoles as well, on other consoles, but I'm not reinstalling battle.net. So if you want my money on this, put it on Steam.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. It. Do you think they're just going for we can make money off the hype if we make it an exclusive for this set amount of time and then cash in on everybody else later?
I think it's Activision pulling an Activision.
That's the answer I was expecting, but not hoping for. But you're probably not wrong.
Um, a lighter thing that I'm sure an old friend of mine is going to be looking forward to is Century Age of Ashes, where we finally have a gameplay trailer. Now, it is a free-to-play game, but the approach that it's going with is, well, remember Lair? They want to do that, but not shit.
And again, I have nothing wrong with people being ambitious. I hope you stick the landing.
Yep. So yeah, you're you're playing it. You're playing a dragon rider. in a class-based approach.
Yeah, it's the class-based thing that I start to take pause on. It's not that I have anything wrong with games that use a class-based system. It's that all the games recently that use class-based systems that are coming out don't seem to use that system very well, and
I
they
lo-
suffer because of it.
I like what I'm seeing out of this, but I want to see what it looks like in a less controlled environment. But but we haven't really gotten much in the way of games where where you're playing as where you're playing as a dragon in flight. I mean, last we had was Lair, and that was a decade ago. And I've made it clear that I'm a sucker for both Panzer Dragoon and Drakengard.
I mean, I could just to change or not change, but elaborate on what I was saying earlier. A class-based system for a game like this could work. I'm not saying it couldn't. Like you could have Archer, Lancer, or just I'm just really good at letting my dragon bite things.
Mhm.
But it doesn't.
The approach that they have is Windguard, which is defensive. Marauders, which are essentially trackers, and are the more offensive ones since they can track and basically home in on enemies, and the stealthy end, which is the phantoms.
And see that this is where I kind of start to get a little more leery because it feels like a very cookie cutter approach to the class system, and I don't necessarily like that.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it's going to be bad. It just it feels somewhat contrived, I suppose.
For me, this is going to live and die on how well its controls work. That's about it.
Well, especially if you're looking at stealth, tracker, and berserker as your main class systems. Yeah, if your controls fail in any way, shape, or form, yeah, you're dead in the water.
Well, there's also the fact that you're controlling dragons with this. It's so, in full on flight and with full on flight speed. But moving right along, um, some so, in Q3, Relic Space will be heading to early access, which they've cited the Expanse as as one of their inspirations. They're going with with a open world turn-based RPG that's leaning towards hard SF.
Hmm. I haven't been keeping up with this project much, so I'm not going to have a lot to say about it, to be honest.
I mean, we've got a reveal trailer on the matter, but not a whole lot else just yet. This was just recently announced. But we don't see a whole
And
lot of.
the
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say the Expanse is not a bad pool of ideas to to base something off of,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not sure how well it would lend itself to a turn-based system. But
They're going with hex combat. One one that's pretty clear that it's not a case of that it's a case of um you are not that some of the safety measures that people play with hex-based combat are not going to work. Is very much a case of all turns resolved simultaneously instead of everybody on your side goes and everybody on the other side goes.
ooh, I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of people that like this game because it's challenging, and twice as many people complaining about it because they don't understand how the system itself works. That's just the vibe I'm getting right now.
Maybe. Let's see.
I mean, maybe it's good. It could always be good.
Oh, and that apparently in August, the successor to Doom RL is going to be coming to Steam, known as Jupiter Hell. Um,
Honestly, as long as you make a Doom game gory and yeah, give us a lot of boom and pew, you could sell a dog turd and make money off the Doom franchise.
Honestly, the approach that I'm seeing out of this is less in the way of traditional Doom and more of what would happen if you mixed Doom and Space Hulk. Actually,
Oh, I actually
Or-
quite like that,
Mhm.
especially as someone who is who's always been a Tyranid player. Yeah, I would very much like that. Oh, kind of like I was saying about the Alien franchise. You have one goal: get off the ship,
Mhm.
and also don't die. Like straightforward, easy to do, easy to execute. Just stick to the basics, and you know, I'm not sure how you can fuck it up, but
There is element of roguelike with Doom RL, it was originally called Doom RL, then later DRL for copyright reasons, and now it's getting a revamp as Jupiter Hell. The approach that they're doing is essentially Doom but roguelike.
yeah, I'm gonna have to put this on my watch list as well because I like games like this.
Um, Now, in a matter that's pleasing my ancestors, a RTS/city builder called Frozenheim is going to be heading to early access this May.
Frozenheim.
Yes.
I'm intrigued.
It's being put out by Hyperstage, who are a studio based in Warsaw, and Paranoid Interactive. Um, the same people. This is done by the same people who did Elderborn, which is really good. And with this, it's a case of, well, it's an RTS city builder, just with Vikings. For me, the main thing that I'm going to be concerned with is how much stuff there is to do, because I really liked the aesthetic of Frostpunk, but the problem that I had was that after a while, I could let the game play itself.
Well, in the case of this one, since it's a Viking-based city builder, I really hope they do something with the Viking aspect in regards to resource gathering. Because if they don't, that is going to be such a wasted opportunity.
Well, it looks like you've got that as well as the fact that combat is on the RTS end of things. So you've got
Okay, so they very intentionally chose Viking city builder. Okay, I can get why they were doing a RTS city builder in that aspect.
It also looks like there's the possibility that you're going to have to deal with preparing for the winter, because you know how it is with Nordic winters. You got to be prepared to eat shit hard.
Oh yes, as much as I don't like how Game of Thrones ended, yeah, they did teach us one thing about the long night, and that's food. Food is your primary concern.
Yep. You know, about a week ago, I was talking with Zan about how I want to see the remainder of the Panzer Dragoon series get remade after the success of the first game's remake, which is pretty damn good. And then this drops. Panzer Dragoon Zwei is going to get a remake later this year.
Didn't hear about that one either.
Yep. Both the original and Zwei remakes were announced back in December of 2018, now we know that it's going to launch sometime. That Zwei is going to launch sometime this year, but we don't have a date when. Although I will admit this, if both of them do well enough, there is one game that I want to see get a full-on remake, and if they can't do it, I'll understand, but I still want to see them try. Panzer Dragoon Saga. If nothing else, it'll allow people to play it without breaking the fucking bank. Because have you seen how expensive it is to get a copy of that?
I've I've heard it mentioned, but I don't know the price point.
You might be able to find it cheap for $500.
Yikes. Well then, that answers my question.
I mean, obviously you can play the thing emulated, but in fact, I find one complete copy of it used for $500.
That's that's quite the that's quite the price threshold. Wow.
Like there are three games that have been that for as long as I've known have been the holy trinity of of games that I've wanted to try, but it's ridiculously expensive to try and get a hold of. And oddly enough, all of them are in the same kind of genre. Elemental Gearbolt, Einhander, and Sagas.
Yee. And I remember there was one iteration of what was that mech game back from Armored Core? Armored Core had one iteration that was really expensive to find, but that's because they had like their own control system that came with it, and it was the only thing that worked with the game.
It's probably one of the PS1 era versions of it. Like,
Yeah, it was the one that they had like the dual joystick system with it.
mm-hmm.
But yeah, even then though, that was only like at the time $200 or $300 to buy. So 500 is impressive.
Mm-hmm. Now,
Yikes.
one other entry that I might have to take a look at is a turn-based tactical game called Black Legend, which is going to go for dark fantasy in 17th century northwestern Europe. It says you lead a band of mercenaries seeking redemption by trying to retake the city of Grant from a cabal of insane cultists and dark beings. It uses a turn-based system based on humorism and alchemy, where you need to master 4 different instabilities and combine them with powerful catalyst attacks to deal damage.
Rather straightforward plot premise, but I like it.
And given you're definitely dealing with Puritan era motifs. I'd say although the look of things makes me think that especially since this is northwestern Europe, this is not we're not dealing with British shit. No no offense Britain, but British style fantasy is kind of overdone.
Yeah, it's become a trope.
Mm-hmm. I am interested how alchemy is going to play a part in this. So I might have to take a little bit more of a look into it. And either way, I can use the visual motifs of the game as reference whenever I run Warhammer or Streets of Peril when that comes out.
Yeah, assuming. Well, I don't know too much about Streets of Peril, but assuming Warhammer doesn't take a turn south, because they're.
I already have I've the game that's the Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay has been in pretty good hands with Cubicle 7. And when it comes to Warhammer Fantasy Battle, well, I've got Ninth Age. I don't care. Now when we also have the fact that Idea Factory is putting out the finale when it comes to the Mary Skelter trilogy. So I'm pretty sure Martyr will get a kick out of that, and I look forward to seeing her stream it eventually because I know it's going to happen. And I always like seeing Martyr make a fool of herself online. Hey, she's the one who put out her pinned tweet with her links as ways to watch me make a fool of myself online. So don't blame me for bully.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I don't know. I guess I'm just a little concerned about the future of the Warhammer franchise. They're going in a direction that I don't think is going to be good in the long run. But what do I know? I'm just someone who's been playing Warhammer since I was in 4th grade.
Um, if given Ninth Age was more or less created as a response to the end times. Given that, if a similar thing happens with 40K, I can guarantee you the same thing's going to go down.
Yeah, you're probably not wrong. And again, I hope the direction they're going in still doesn't detract from
They've left
what
Cubicle
made.
7 alone, so that's all I care about.
Yeah, fair enough. I won't disagree there.
Another thing that got announced is the fact that apparently the Silver Case 2425 is getting a Western release. This is essentially a re-release of the collection of the Silver Case and the 25th Ward. And
How much money?
This was originally put out on the PS4 back in 2018, but Japan only. And the Silver Case has always been a curiosity because that's one of the major entries from Grasshopper that I haven't tried out because of the language barrier.
It's a shame that that's a very common problem when it comes to games that are usually Japan only releases. It's like we want to buy them. You just got to give us the option to actually know what you guys are saying.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be terribly difficult.
Now there's probably plenty of fans who would be willing to do the translation work for you.
I would be absolutely shocked if there weren't.
But that's coming out for the Switch this July. Something that's going to be coming out next year that I'm looking forward to is Gunvolt 3.
I still need to play the first 2 games.
You're not the only one to care.
First 3 games. This is technically the 4th game in this series.
I'd happily play the first 3 if I could actually find them and find the time to do so.
I think in your case it's more of an issue of time because Gunvolt 1 and 2 are available in a 2-pack, and both of them have been ported to all the Azure Striker games have been ported to Steam.
Okay, yeah, if they've been ported to Steam, then it is just an issue of time.
Yeah, the thing I consistently have to warn people is that even though these are made by Inti Creates, do not go into any of the Gunvolt games or its spin-off expecting Mega Man.
Well, that's rule number 1 there.
Don't even maybe you can expect Mega Man 0 a little bit, but only in the sense that this is going to be as hard as Mega Man 0.
I have no problem with difficulty, just as long as the controls are decently adequate. So,
And you know me, I live for this shit.
Look, aside from their work with Mighty Number 9, Inti Creates has not put out a bad game when they have control.
True.
I mean, hell, I'm one of the people that looks at Dark Souls and go, "Yeah, this is about average difficulty." So,
The other thing that got announced right around the same time that's coming from Inti Creates is Blaster Master 03.
I want to play it just for the name Blaster Master.
But Blaster
played
Master has a long and illustrious history.
Yeah, I was just about to say, you never played Classic Blaster Master?
No, I've had a lot of people tell me I should. It's been on my list for longer than I care to admit. I've never gotten the
I
chance.
consider the original one of the more ambitious entries in the NES's library. Simply because of the fact that it was doing essentially a mashup of play styles. And the Zero series is a continuation of that style. It's actually pretty damn good. So once again, I'm glad to see that Inti Creates is doing well for themselves. Then on the roguelite end of things, we have Ruin Raiders coming to us from Freedom Games, with Freedom with an exclamation point.
I have never heard of this studio.
But
Neither have I.
the approach that we're going with is animal soldiers exploring the ever-changing ruins of an ancient civilization, and it
So it passes the Elon Musk test.
It looks like we're going with grid combat, although it seems placement is very important, especially since there seems to be a lot of splash. If there's anything that this game kind of reminds me of, it's Mechanicus, which is actually really good. I'd say this is a simpler version of what Mechanicus is doing, especially since there's no the thing that I loved about Mechanicus, unlike say XCOM, is the sheer lack of XCOM RNG bullshit. If you're within range, you hit. Full stop.
I don't have any complaints about that type of approach.
Lastly, we have Avorion 2.0. Now, Avorion launched in early access a year ago, and they're celebrating their first anniversary by talking about what's going to come next. Now, Avorion is you're essentially dealing with ship combat, and
Wait, when you say ship come back, are we talking spaceship?
yeah, spaceship. We're talking
okay.
full on spaceship.
Okay. You know, I like that because the last time I had a good spaceship
The
game,
last time you had a good spaceship game, it disappointed you for several years.
actually no, Battlefleet Gothic Armada wasn't that bad. I actually quite enjoyed that game a lot for what it was.
With Avorion, we do see that it's you have a co-op space sandbox where you can build your ship and then try and not get it killed. Including a big. I feel like a lot of ex-Eve players are playing this.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so not Battlefleet Gothic Armada. Okay. Well,
But that is going to do it for this week. We will be back next week or in 2 weeks with with whatever happens to pop in the radar with the monastery. And of course, tomorrow we have something a little lighter when it comes to the insanity of Geek Watch. And Nick Arklands will be back in the temple that day. But until then, on behalf of the good brothers present and not present, my name is Mildra. I am your gaming monk. Stay